Chapter 788. That's right. We can't let the winged tiger be taken back by the beast god continent, or our Tianyuan continent will be severely threatened. I also agree. We can't let the experts of the beast god continent take the winged tiger back, no matter what. Everyone agreed with the middle-aged man's suggestion. Aside from the pavilion master of the Pure Heart Pavilion, no one else agreed with returning the winged tiger. Then how do you plan on dealing with the winged tiger of our Tianyuan continent? Tianjian asked again. If the winged tiger is still in its infancy, then we can tame it and make it part of our forces, or we can force it to sign an ancient oath. If neither of those methods work, then we can only kill the winged tiger, even if it means offending the beast god continent. Our Tianyuan continent no longer has the power to fend off the winged tiger in its peak condition, an old man from a protector clan said with a heavy voice. He was extremely stern. According to what I know, the beast god continent has a total of 3 holy emperors. One of them is Lankyros. He's the weakest of the 3 holy emperors. If our protector clans and your mercenary city use our emperor armaments, we can fend off Lankyros if we work together. The holy emperor of the Pung clan is second. He's slightly more powerful than Lankyros, so the Path Lord of Carnal Desires can deal with him. As for the most powerful king, we can only leave him to the protectors of Mercenary City, said a middle-aged man in azure robes. After a moment of thought, Tianjian said the barrier spirit of our mercenary city was left behind by the city lord in the past. It has existed for countless years now, so no one in Mercenary City knows just how powerful it is. In my opinion, it should be able to fend off the king of the beast god continent. Since we already possess enough power to fend off the threat of the beast god continent, let's go find the winged tiger as soon as possible, said a white-robed, sagely old man from the protector clans. Tianjian glanced deeply at the old man who had spoken. After a moment of hesitation, he said, "Everyone, I might have seen the winged tiger god a few years ago. Back then, it was still in its infancy, so it wasn't very powerful. However, it followed a young man with great talent, and it was extremely close to that young man. In my opinion, there's no need to go through so much trouble if we want to control the winged tiger and prevent it from threatening our Tianyuan continent. We can just let it follow the young man without worry. Once the winged tiger has matured, it will definitely not do anything detrimental to our continent because of the young man god continent. We can't do that. The winged tiger is extremely important. We can't let a young man control it. Such a powerful divine beast must be controlled by our protector clans. Only then can we be at ease." The middle-aged man in azure robes immediately objected. "We can't let the young man control the winged tiger. Tianjian, you're so biased towards the young man. Are you related to him in some way?" The sagely old man also stood up and objected to Tianjian's suggestion. Tianjian looked at the sagely old man and said, "You must be Changyang Qinyin from the Changyang Prefecture." "Correct. The old man is Changyang Qinyin," the sagely old man said nonchalantly as he stared straight at Tianjian. Tianjian gently sighed. "I'm probably not the one related to the young man. Whatever. Since everyone is against this suggestion, just treat it as if I never said anything. How do you deal with the winged tiger? My mercenary city will not get involved." After the protector clans left, they immediately passed down orders to the ancient clans to search for the winged tiger. At the same time, they announced the characteristics of the winged tiger. The ancient clans immediately passed down the same orders to the many hermit clans before the hermit clans passed down the same orders to the various kingdoms and sections. Like this, the news spread across the entire Tianyuan continent very quickly. It led to a frenzy of searching for the winged tiger. Everyone knew the characteristics of the winged tiger. A few kingdoms even sent out armies to search the entire continent. All the magical beasts that matched the characteristics of the winged tiger, regardless of their strength, were captured before being handed over to the hermit clans by the Heaven Saint Masters of the kingdom. The protector clans completely emerged as well. Large groups of disciples emerged from their secluded spaces and set foot on the Tianyuan continent, joining the search for the winged tiger. In the space that had been carved out by someone on the Tianyuan continent, a middle-aged man in white robes embroidered with golden threads hovered in the air. He was scholarly, yet he gave off a sense of evilness. The middle-aged man did not give off the presence of an expert at all. He seemed more like an ordinary person, but he seemed to have fused with the world as he hovered in the air. He stared into the distance as the light in his eyes flickered. He softly murmured, "The winged tiger has actually appeared again, and on the Tianyuan continent. It's a pity that I left the Pure Heart Pavilion too early, so I haven't come into contact with the records of the ancient times. Otherwise, I would definitely have an even clearer understanding of the winged tiger, and searching for it would be much easier. The people of the protector clans are searching for the winged tiger anyway. Once they find it, I'll steal the winged tiger from the protector clans and forcefully sign an ancient contract with it. I can't just let the beast god continent and the protector clans benefit from this winged tiger." News regarding the winged tiger spread across the entire city. Discussions regarding the winged tiger could be heard everywhere on the streets. Jianqin slowly opened his eyes as he sat on his bed in the Union. His face was sunken. Although the City of God had activated the heaven-encompassing formation, it only concealed his presence. The senses of his soul were not affected at all, allowing him to observe the situation within a radius of 10 kilometers. Naturally, he had learnt about the winged tiger from the people around him. The situation has developed so quickly that it has completely exceeded my expectations. I can't stay in the Union any longer, Jianqin sighed. I can no longer leave the Union, Jianqin thought before immediately standing up. He left the Union with the white tiger in his arms. The president and grand elder silently emerged from their rooms the moment Jianqin left the 5th floor. The two of them stared in the direction Jianqin had disappeared in with mixed feelings. After a long moment of silence, they finally sighed gently. "It looks like the beast on Yang Yutian's shoulder is probably the winged tiger that the protector clan is searching for," the grand elder said softly. The president nodded slightly. "Shouldn't we try to persuade Yang Yutian to hand over the winged tiger? That way, we can avoid quite a lot of trouble." "I don't think Yang Yutian will give it up so easily. I can already tell that his feelings for the winged tiger have reached an extremely deep level. Persuading him is just a waste of time. Moreover, the protector clan only wants the winged tiger. With their status, they won't harm Yang Yutian," said the grand elder. "Let's hope that's the case," the president said softly. Although he had guessed the identity of the winged tiger, he didn't report it to the protector clan. At the same time, he didn't stop Jianqin from leaving. He was already a person who was nearing the end of his life. He had already seen through many things and let them go. The Radiant Saint Master Union still had the ability to resist the Tsar family, but against the protector clan, the Union could not even muster the slightest thought of resisting. Jianqin left the 5th floor of the Union and directly arrived at the lowest floor. He passed through the spacious hall and directly made his way out of the Union. Along the way, wherever Jianqin passed, all the Radiant Saint Masters in the surroundings would cast strange gazes at him. However, most of these gazes were focused on the white tiger on Jianqin's shoulder. Various discussions rang out from their mouths. Why do I feel that the ancient beast on Yang Yutian's back is so similar to the winged tiger? They are both tiger-type magical beasts. And look at the back of that ancient beast. It really does seem to have a pair of wings. Yeah, I also feel that it is quite similar, although the wings on its back are hidden extremely well. But if you look carefully, you can still see it. That's not necessarily true. With the pride of an ancient divine beast, how could it submit to a human? In my opinion, the magical beast on Yang Yutian's shoulder is still an ancient beast. It's just that it looks very similar to the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger. After all, there are many magical beasts on the Tianyuan continent, and there are many variations. It wouldn't be strange to have one or two identical magical beasts. That's true. It's probably just a coincidence. After all, ancient divine beasts are experts like Mo Tianyan. With their pride, how could they submit to us humans? Moreover, Yang Yutian's ancient beast has already reached the 6th step. It's completely different from the rumored young ancient divine beasts. Jianqin's heart became even heavier as he listened to the various discussions around him. He could not help but quicken his steps, but he could not show any signs of panic on his face. If he panicked, people would think that he was guilty. More people would definitely believe that the white tiger was the winged tiger. Jianqin carried the white tiger out of the Union very quickly. He then disappeared into the sea of people without encountering any obstructions. Now that he could no longer hide the white tiger's identity, Jianqin could no longer remain in the Union. He had temporarily thrown the matter of breaking through to the 7th class to the back of his mind. Although he was extremely unwilling, he had to ensure the white tiger's safety. His parents were important to Jianqin, but he could not abandon the white tiger either. Just as Jianqin made his way through the streets, he suddenly frowned slightly. A cold light flashed through his eyes, and a white cloud condensed from radiant Saint Force suddenly appeared beneath his feet. He flew off into the distance. Just when Jianqin left the Radiant Saint Master Union, the space around him suddenly froze, trapping Jianqin in the air. He was unable to move at all. Afterwards, 5 figures shot over with lightning speed, arriving before Jianqin in the blink of an eye. One of them extended his hands towards the white tiger as he sneered, "Jianqin, even if you're a Radiant Saint Master, we can still find you. I'd like to see where you can run off to this time." Roar. Before Jianqin could do anything, the white tiger immediately roared out. The frozen space was unable to affect it at all. It charged out as a white streak of light, and its sharp claws landed on the 2 incoming hands, leaving behind 2 deep, bloody marks. It really is an ancient divine beast. It really is powerful. It can actually injure me with the strength of a Class 6 magical beast. Old Situ sighed in amazement before looking at the other 4 people. He called out, "Go, let's do it together. Let's capture the winged tiger and leave immediately." Now that the entire continent was searching for the winged tiger, Old Situ obviously knew the white tiger's true identity as well. However, this did not stop them from wanting to capture the winged tiger. In their eyes, it did not matter whether it was an ancient divine beast or a beast of antiquity. All that mattered was that it could bring them great benefits. Chapter 789. Ha 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 ha, of course we know your name. Jianqin. Hand over the winged tiger obediently, an old man sneered. He had already extended his hands toward the white tiger in Jianqin's arms. In order to prevent himself from being injured by the white tiger, he covered his hands with a layer of invisible world force. "You're the ones who colluded with the Jinlijian clan and killed my parents." Killing intent surged in Jianqin's eyes. He could no longer hold back against the people who had killed his parents. Strands of chaotic force surged out from his chaotic naiden, filling every corner of his body. He pushed the power of the chaotic body to its limits. Jianqin shuddered, and the frozen space in the surroundings immediately shattered. He directly threw a punch at the old man's hands. His fist was filled with powerful chaotic force, so the space in front of him was compressed together by a tremendous force. Although the 5 of them had pursued Jianqin for a very long time, they did not understand Jianqin's exact strength. The old man was already at the 5th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler, and the world force that covered his hands toward the winged tiger was casually added. He did not use his full strength at all. Kacha! Jianqin's fist collided with the old man's hands. The thin layer of world force on the old man's hands was dispersed by Jianqin's punch. Afterward, the crisp sound of bones shattering rang out. The old man's hands had been shattered inch by Jianqin's punch. The intense pain caused the old man to uncontrollably grunt. Jianqin retreated after the strike. He swayed, slightly, and retreated several hundred meters in a single moment. Although he was extremely furious, he did not lose his mind. He knew that it was impossible for him to be the opponent of the 5 old men alone, because 2 of them were at the 6th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. Be careful. Jianshin is not weak. We don't have much time left. Use your full strength to take the winged tiger, and then leave immediately, Sido Old Man called out. He did not hold back at all, and attacked Jianshin first. Afterward, the other 3 stopped underestimating Jianshin and charged toward him. They needed to take the winged tiger as soon as possible. At this moment, a middle-aged man in gray arrived before Jianshin with lightning-like speed. He sent 4 palm strikes toward the 4 old men. The 7th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. Sido Old Man and Ma Tang cried out. They immediately became stern. They drew their saint weapons without any hesitation at all against such an expert. As they poured a tremendous amount of saint force into their weapons, they immediately erupted with extremely powerful ripples of energy as they swung their weapons forward. Wherever their giant swords passed, the surrounding space was cut open with a pitch-black crack. The strength of Old Ghost Situ and Old Ghost Matang was only 1 level higher than the gray-robed, middle-aged man. Under their full strength, they managed to break through the middle-aged man's attack without any mishap. The other 2 old men at the 5th heavenly layer were not so lucky. When their saint weapons collided with the middle-aged man, a tremendous ripple of energy immediately erupted in the air. The 2 of them were immediately blown away as their faces became rather pale. At this moment, the 4 protectors of the Blood Sword sect all came to a halt 50 kilometers away from Jianshin. They all looked in Jianshin's direction. The ripples from the battle between the middle-aged man and the 5 old men had alarmed them. It's them. We finally found them. One of the protectors called out. The 4 of them shot off into the distance as a red streak of light. The gray-robed middle-aged man sent out 4 palms to force Old Ghost Situ and the others back. He stared at them with a sharp gaze and said in a deep voice, "In the city of God, you outsiders are not allowed to be presumptuous." The faces of Ma Tang and the others sank slightly. They had never thought that they would still be able to alarm an expert of the Radiant Saint Master Union despite being so far away. Moreover, it was a 7th heavenly layer Saint Ruler. At this moment, a dense, baleful Yin Qi came from afar, for blood-red rays of light shot over from afar like lightning. In the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of Old Ghost Situ and surrounded the few of them. It's the people of the Blood Sword sect. The middle-aged man frowned slightly. Even though the 4 protectors of the Blood Sword sect were weaker than him, there was a trace of deep fear in his eyes when he looked at them. The arrival of the 4 protectors made Jianshin even more certain that the 5 saint rulers who had come for the white tiger were the ones who had killed his parents. His killing intent became even more intense. He looked at the middle-aged man before looking at the 4 protectors. After a slight hesitation, he did not stop at all, immediately flying off into the distance. Although the people who had killed his parents were right before him, it was not the time for revenge yet. He could not let himself fall into danger because of a moment's impulse. The matter at hand was to leave the city of God, leave the Holy Emperor's empire. Only then would he be slightly safer. He no longer considered his own safety. He also considered the safety of the white tiger. Yang Yutian, leave behind the beast on your shoulder, or don't even think about leaving the city of God. Suddenly, an old voice rang out from outer space. Over a dozen ancestors from the 8 clans of the city of God strode over from all directions. They had fused with the surrounding space, crossing several hundred meters with each step. They approached Jianshin in just a few seconds and surrounded Jianshin. One of the ancestors looked at the middle-aged man and clasped his hands. "Xianglong, we don't want to oppose Radiant Saint Masters. It's just that the beast on Yang Yutian is extremely likely to be the winged tiger that the protector clans are searching for. As a result, he needs to leave the beast behind." The middle-aged man fell silent. There was nothing he could do now that the 8 clans had brought up the protector clans. At the same time, he knew that the ancestors' words were extremely reasonable. Even he doubted whether the beast on Yang Yutian's shoulder was the winged tiger that the protector clans were searching for. Jianqin looked at everyone coldly. He understood that it would not be easy for him to leave here today. Even if the Radiant Saint Master Union stood on his side, it would be useless. This matter was related to the winged tiger. It was enough to cause the protector clans to intervene. No organization dared to oppose the protector clans, so he could only rely on himself to leave. Jianqin placed the white tiger under his arm and pulled out the ruler armament, the dragon-slaying sword, from his space ring. With the sword in hand, Jianqin's presence immediately underwent an overwhelming change. At this moment, he seemed to have become an unsheathed sword. He radiated with a tremendous sword chi. He seemed like a completely different person compared to the gentle and refined Radiant Saint Master from before. The middle-aged man's eyes immediately widened as he stared at Jianqin. Disbelief filled his eyes as if he had seen a ghost. How is this possible? Yang Yutian, why? Are you a fighter or a Radiant Saint Master? The ancestors of the 8 great clans all gasped. At this moment, their hearts, which had remained calm for many years, began to thump uncontrollably. All of them were extremely shocked by the scene before them. They found it hard to accept. Yang Yutian, I never thought that you were actually a prodigy who was both a fighter and a Radiant Saint Master. You've even reached Saint Ruler as a fighter, an ancestor said in surprise. He looked at Jianqin like he was looking at a monster. At this moment, several streaks of white light flew over from afar. The President, Grand Elder, and several other elders of the Union hurried over at the same time. They all stopped in the distance as they stared at Jianqin in shock. Only the Grand Elder remained relatively calm. He did not change much, but his gaze towards Jianqin was extremely mixed. Yang Yutian, I never thought that you were actually a fighter. Is this real? Both a fighter and a Radiant Saint Master have actually appeared on the same person. What does this mean? The president of the Radiant Saint Master Union asked. His voice was filled with disbelief, as if he had just witnessed a miracle. The Grand Elder fell silent for a while before saying loudly, Yang Yutian, I don't care if you're a fighter or a Radiant Saint Master. I just want to ask you one thing. Do you treat yourself as a member of the Radiant Saint Master Union? Jianqin looked at the president and Grand Elder with mixed feelings. He clasped his hands and said, President, Grand Elder, thank you for taking care of me in the past few days. Yang Yutian will never forget your kindness. If I have the chance in the future, I will definitely repay you. Master, don't believe his nonsense. This Yang Yutian clearly has ill intentions for infiltrating our Radiant Saint Master Union. Don't be fooled by him. Yun Tian flew over from afar as he looked at Jianqin with a gloating gaze. He had also heard about the news of the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger. He originally wanted to return to the Union and tell his master the secret, but he never thought that he would encounter something like this along the way. At the same time, he accidentally learned of Yang Yutian's identity as a fighter. Yang Yutian, you've offended the 10 protector clans now. I want to see how you'll survive. This time, the Tsar family doesn't even need to do anything. You'll die at the hands of the protector clans. Yun Tian thought to himself. He was extremely excited. He was already certain that Jianqin was dead for sure. No one could save him. Jianqin glanced at Yun Tian. His cold, sword-like gaze caused Yun Tian's heart to tremble. He subconsciously took a few steps back. Just a single gaze from Jianqin was enough to make Yun Tian cower. However, Yun Tian soon returned to his senses. As soon as he thought about how he was scared by a person who was about to die, he immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation. He yelled, Seniors, Yang Yutian has adopted the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger, and assisted the winged tiger in its growth. He has already become a traitor to the humans of the Tianyuan continent. Please kill Yang Yutian on the spot and make a great contribution. Chapter 790. The eyes of the ancestors immediately lit up when they heard Yun Tian's words. Regardless of whether Yang Yutian was a fighter or a radiant Saint Master, he had killed the participants of the 8 clans in the artifact space, so they had already fallen out with him. Even if Yang Yutian could no longer remain in the Union, it would not stop them from eliminating Yang Yutian. This was because the participants who had died to Yang Yutian's hands in the artifact space were all important members of the 8 clans. Their statuses were extremely special, so their sacrifice was an unbearable blow to the 8 clans. The people of the 8 clans had not completely confirmed that the Class 6 beast on Jianshin was the winged tiger that the Protector clans were searching for. However, they had grievances with Yang Yutian, so they used this as an excuse to threaten Jianshin and take the beast for themselves. One of the ancestors immediately called out, "That's right. The beast on Yang Yutian's shoulder is the winged tiger. He has protected the divine beast of the beast god continent and assisted its growth. He has already posed an extremely severe threat to the peace of our continent. This is the action of a traitor. Everyone, let's kill the traitor together. Let's kill the traitor together." The ancestors of the 8 clans all called out. They arrived before Jianshin with a single movement and struck out at Jianshin at the same time. Their hands were immediately covered with a layer of dense world force as they struck toward Jianshin. Jianshin's eyes were cold. Chaotic force surged from his dantian into the ruler armament, Dragon Slayer. The hazy glow from the sword was immediately suppressed, and a bright, black light shot out from the sword. A destructive presence expanded into the distance, causing the eyes of all the saint rulers present to narrow. With a few flashes of light, the dragon-slaying sword had already slashed out several times with lightning-like speed. The powerful sword Qi collided with the force of the world from the saint rulers of the 8 clans, directly dispersing the attacks from the saint rulers. "Be careful, everyone. Yang Yutian is not weak," a saint ruler called out. Saint force surged out of his body, condensing into a 3-meter-long sickle in his hand in a single instance. He had drawn his saint weapon. Afterward, the 4 other saint rulers who had attacked Jianshin stopped underestimating him. They drew their saint weapons at the same time. Invisible world force rapidly condensed on their saint weapons before they swung them toward Jianshin. Wherever their saint weapons passed by, powerful ripples of energy would cause space to distort and crack. Jianshin was emotionless. He stabbed out with Dragon Slayer 5 times with unbelievable speed, colliding with the saint weapons of the 5 saint rulers with unparalleled force. Boom! The 5 violent booms seemed to connect into one, like a thunderclap exploding in the air. The violent energy wreaked havoc between heaven and earth, tearing the void apart. The 5 saint rulers were knocked back by Jianshin's attack. They only stabilized themselves after flying 3 kilometers in the air. Afterward, they looked at Jianshin in shock. The 5th heavenly layer of saint ruler. An ancestor of the 8 clans growled. Disbelief filled his eyes as he looked at Jianshin. The president of the Radiant Saint Master Union stared at Jianshin in shock as well. He was extremely shocked by Yang Yutian's strength. 24 years old. 24 years old. It must be him. I never thought that he would have grown to such a level in just a few years. It's unbelievable, the Grand Elder beside the president softly murmured. His face was filled with melancholy. How is Yang Yutian so powerful? Not only is he a Class 6, Radiant Saint Master with 3 Radiant Saint techniques, but he's so powerful as a fighter as well. He's actually at the 5th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. Yun Tian, who had already hidden behind the president, paled. As soon as he thought about how he had once harbored evil intentions towards a 5th heavenly layer Saint Ruler, he felt an uncontrollable sense of lingering fear and dread. This was because Yun Tian knew extremely well that an expert like that could kill him as easily as crushing an ant. But Yang Yutian has already offended the 8 clans and the Tsar family, and he's now carrying an ancient beast that's suspected to be a winged tiger. It's extremely likely for him to draw over protector clans. So what if he's a 5th heavenly layer saint ruler? He's still going to die. Yun Tian immediately let out a sigh of relief when he thought up to there. Yun Tian was not uncertain about the identity of the white tiger as an ancient, divine beast. However, with his hatred and jealousy for Genshin, even if the white tiger was just an ordinary beast and not a winged tiger, Yun Tian would think of a way to describe it as a winged tiger. This was because only then would the 8 clans and the Tsar family be bold enough to move against Genshin and prevent the Radiant Saint Master Union from standing up for Genshin. This was because the winged tiger was involved in far too many matters. Nearby, Situ Gui's group of 5 looked at Genshin as well. They were rather stern and said softly, "I never thought that Genshin would be able to unleash the strength of a 5th heavenly layer saint ruler with his ruler armament." The 5 saint rulers who had been knocked back by Genshin looked at each other sternly. They had never thought that Yang Yutian would be so powerful, actually reaching the 5th heavenly layer. With their strength at the 3rd and 4th heavenly layer, they were indeed not the opponent of a 5th heavenly layer saint ruler. Genshin did not pursue the people of the 8 clans. He sheathed his sword and glared at Situ, Wangui, and the others. Intense killing intent radiated from his body as he called out coldly, "I'll deal with my grievances with the 8 clans later. Please allow me to kill the murderer of my parents first." With that, Genshin used spatial force and fused with the surrounding space. He turned into a faint blur and shot toward the 5 of them with unbelievable speed. A gleam of light flickered through the eyes of the ancestors of the 8 clans. They did not stop Genshin. On one hand, they wanted to use the 5 of them to test out Genshin's exact strength. On the other hand, they wanted to use them to waste away Genshin's strength so that they could deal with Genshin more easily. A 5th heavenly layer saint ruler was enough to attract the attention of the 8 clans. Moreover, they did not know if Genshin had any other powerful trump cards hidden up his sleeves. The 5 of them revealed rather ugly expressions. Not only did they have to face the 10 protectors of the Blood Sword sect, but they also had to face the equally powerful Genshin. They were in an extremely bad situation. 8 clans of the City of God. The little beast on Genshin's shoulder is the winged tiger that the protector clans are searching for. If you kill Genshin and offer the tiger to the protector clans definitely won't mistreat you. They'll definitely reward you with a saint tier battle skill. If you still don't do it, do you want the Blood Sword sect to take all the credit for it? Ma Tang thought of a plan in his moment of desperation. He instigated the ancestors of the 8 clans in an attempt to use them to deal with Genshin. He knew that if Genshin and the 4 protectors of the Blood Sword sect worked together to deal with the 5 of them, it would be very difficult for them to leave this place alive. The eyes of the ancestors of the 8 clans immediately lit up. Ma Tang's words had clearly tempted them, so they began to hesitate. "Pay with your life for my parents." As he spoke, Genshin had already crossed several kilometers and approached the 5 of them. His dragon-slaying sword stabbed toward one of them with a lightning-like speed with dense chaotic force. The attack was very simple without any fancy moves. However, it contained the killing intent and fury that had been buried deep within Genshin for a very long time. The attack was Genshin's full-powered attack. It was the most powerful attack he could unleash. As the sword tore through the air, the destructive chaotic force ripped through space, causing a black streak of light to appear in the air. The 5 of them looked at each other and nodded slightly. They then attacked Genshin at the same time, attempting to kill Genshin in a single strike. Just as they began to move, the 4 protectors moved as well. With a flash of red light, for blood-red thorns stabbed toward 4 of them. Situ and Ma Tang, who were the strongest among them, were also attacked by the four protectors. They were at the sixth heavenly layer of Saint Ruler, and they were attacked by the four protectors as well. With no other choice, the four of them could only give up on attacking Jianqin and focus on fending off the four protectors. In their eyes, Jianqin was very powerful, having also reached the fifth heavenly layer as a Saint Ruler. But the four protectors posed an even greater threat to them than Jianqin. Situ, Ma Teng, and the other two old men were kept busy by the four protectors of the Blood Sword sect. As a result, only one old man remained to fend off Jianqin alone. The old man was not weak either, having reached the fifth heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. With a bellow, the sword in his hand immediately began to shine with a dazzling light. Vast amounts of Saint Force fused with the World Force and shot forward with lightning-like speed. Immediately, the space in front of him violently distorted, and a pitch-black crack appeared. The dragon-slaying sword collided with the old man's saint weapon. It was like two huge forces had collided, erupting with a great boom. The surging ripples of energy were enough to obliterate the surroundings, forming a storm that wreaked havoc in the sky. Jianqin and the old man were both pushed back by the powerful force and the violent ripples of energy. As he flew back, a cold light flashed through Jianqin's eyes. The chaotic force within his body immediately erupted, forcefully stopping him in the air. He then charged up against the countercurrent, quickly catching up to the old man. The old man's face changed slightly. Without any hesitation, he raised his ruler armament and swung it at Jianqin. Jianqin had already arrived before the old man. He did not dodge the old man's attack at all. The dragon-slaying sword stabbed toward the old man's chest with a destructive presence. A life for a life. The old man's face changed slightly. He immediately saw through Jianqin's thoughts, and a sliver of viciousness appeared in his eyes. He thought, "Jianqin, you're crazy. Since you want to go crazy, this old man will go crazy with you. Let's see who will have the last laugh." The old man's sword landed on Jianqin's left shoulder with great force, while Jianqin's dragon-slaying sword pierced the old man's chest. Chapter 791. The two of them were fighting with their lives on the line. It was extremely dangerous, and even the slightest carelessness could threaten their lives. The old man's huge sword landed on Jianqin's shoulder, and the powerful force directly tore Jianqin's clothes to shreds. Not even a single piece of cloth was left behind, revealing the golden threaded armor made from primordial god silk. In the end, the golden threaded armor was blocked by the faint golden light from the golden threaded armor, preventing it from harming Jianqin at all. Jianqin's ruler armament, the dragon-slaying sword, stabbed into the old man's chest at the same time, piercing through his chest. Destructive chaotic force immediately erupted from the dragon-slaying sword, rampaging through the old man's body like a dragon. Wherever the chaotic force passed by, the old man's organs and bones would be reduced to dust. Spurt! The old man spat out a mouthful of blood, which turned into a bloody mist in the air. His face paled at that moment as he glanced at Jianqin in shock. Without any hesitation, he immediately retreated. At the same time, he circulated all the saint force within him in an attempt to purge the rampaging chaotic force that was destroying his life force. However, how could chaotic force be purged so easily? Even though there was not a lot of chaotic force remaining in his body, the sliver of chaotic force was not something his weak saint force could resist. Even with his full strength, the old man could only temporarily suppress the sliver of chaotic force. He was unable to purge it in a short amount of time. It's not saint force, it's not the energy of the world, and it's not any of the 6 elements. What is this power? It's actually so powerful. The old man was shocked as deep fear filled his eyes. He had basically used all his strength to suppress the chaotic force, so his battle prowess was pitifully weak. Killing intent surged in Jianqin's eyes as the thought of his parents' death surfaced in his head once again. The grief and hatred in his heart had been converted into extremely dense killing intent. He stepped into the air, and a ripple immediately appeared in the space there. In the next moment he had vanished, arriving before the old man when he reappeared. He stabbed out with the dragon-slaying sword in his hand. The sword moved extremely quickly. It had already fused with spatial force, arriving before the old man's forehead in a single moment. The old man's eyes suddenly narrowed. At this critical moment, he gave up on suppressing the chaotic force within him and used all his strength to block Genshin's fatal strike. He used all his strength to raise the palm-sized sword in front of him as quickly as possible to block of his forehead. The dragon-slaying sword stabbed into the broad surface of the giant sword, and the powerful force sent the old man flying back. The sliver of chaotic force Genshin had left in the old man's body was no longer suppressed. It became lively once again, rampaging through the old man's body as it ravaged the old man's life force. The dragon-slaying Saint Force's body skin, the dragon-slaying chaotic Saint Force. Genshin was emotionless. His eyes were cold as he radiated with surging, killing intent. He stepped into the air and fused with the surrounding space. He chased after the old man with lightning-like speed. He stabbed out with a simple strike once again. There were no fancy moves, only speed, accuracy, and viciousness. This time, the old man no longer had the power to block the simple strike. In the end, the sword stabbed into his forehead as he watched in fear. The light in the old man's eyes rapidly vanished. They became empty. At this moment, a ball of white light flew out from the old man's head, shooting off into the distance with lightning-like speed. It was the old man's soul. As long as the soul existed, Saint Rulers would not die. Genshin had been prepared for all of this. As soon as the old man's soul flew out, the surrounding space suddenly froze, immobilizing the old man's soul. Even though he was a Saint Ruler of the 5th heavenly layer, he was extremely weak now that he had lost his body. He did not even have the ability to struggle in the frozen space. Swish! Just as the space froze, the sound of something shooting through the air rang out. Genshin suddenly stabbed out with the Dragon Slayer's sword in his hand. A sharp sword chi shot out from the tip of the sword, piercing through space and striking the old man's soul in a single instance. Bang! With a gentle sound, the old man's soul loudly shattered. It completely vanished in the air. His soul had been wiped out. A 5th heavenly layer Saint Ruler had died just like that. The ancestors of the 8 clans all shivered inside when they saw this. They felt rather fearful of the strength that had slain a 5th heavenly layer Saint Ruler in such a short amount of time. However, all of them knew that Genshin had not slain a 5th heavenly layer Saint Ruler in such a short amount of time because of Genshin's strength. Instead, it was because of his ruler armament and golden-threaded armor. Without his ruler armament, Genshin would not have been able to use the strength of a 5th heavenly layer Saint Ruler. If he had lost his armor, Genshin would not have been able to remain unscathed from the attack on his shoulder. Even if his arm had not been severed, he would have been heavily injured. Yang Yutian has actually killed a Saint Ruler. When Yun Tian saw this from behind the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union, he immediately became frightened out of his wits. His face paled and became completely bloodless. His entire body trembled gently. The president and grand elders' expressions changed as well. Their gazes toward Genshin changed once again. The 4 of them were extremely sunken. They were busy with the protectors of the Blood Sword sect, so they could only watch helplessly as their companion was killed. They could not free themselves to save him. After killing one of them, Genshin's hatred did not decrease at all. He continued to charge toward the 2nd 5th heavenly layer Saint Ruler with the Dragon Slayer sword. He worked with a protector of the Blood Sword sect to deal with the Saint Ruler. The Saint Ruler was unable to defeat someone stronger than him. He was busy with 2 opponents of the same level, so the pressure on him immediately increased. It became more and more difficult for him to withstand the attacks, so he was forced to retreat. Boom! With a violent boom, Jian Chen's dragon-slaying sword struck out 3 times in a row, colliding with the opponent's saint weapon. The violent shock waves from the collision forced the old man to rapidly retreat. At this moment, a red streak of light flashed behind the old man. It passed through his chest and landed in the protector's hand with a bloody sword. The old man grunted and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face immediately paled, and the flesh around his wound began to rot. Baleful e'en force! The old man cried out as his face became ugly. The blood sword sect was renowned on the Tianyuan continent for their baleful e'en force. Not only could the baleful e'en force erode a person's soul, killing them without them noticing, but it was extremely corrosive as well. Once it came into contact with a wound, it would constantly erode a person's flesh and blood if it was not removed immediately. The old man was at a disadvantage even when fighting 2 opponents by himself, so he did not have the time to remove the baleful e'en force. His wounds had already made him lose the will to fight, so he no longer stayed. He turned around and flew off into the distance in an attempt to flee. "You killed my parents. I'll kill all of you today to avenge my parents." Jianqin suddenly appeared before the old man and blocked his path. He stabbed the dragon-slaying sword toward the old man's forehead. The old man was stern. He used his saint weapon to block Jianqin's attack before breaking out of the encirclement in another direction. Jianqin's free left hand suddenly clenched into a fist. Chaotic force began to condense in his fist as he punched out with lightning-like speed. Jianqin had used his chaotic body and chaotic force to throw out the punch. It was extremely powerful, shaking up the surrounding space and causing it to compress. Bang! The fist struck the old man's waist viciously. With a crack, the old man's bones were shattered by Jianqin's punch. The great force from the punch sent the old man flying. He flew toward the protector of the blood sword sect. The protector was emotionless. The blood-red spike in his hand turned into a red streak of light and stabbed into the back of the old man's head with lightning-like speed. Puff! The blood-red spike pierced through the back of the old man's head and came out from between his eyebrows. The old man's soul flew out from his head. It flew into the distance in a panic, but before it could get very far, the surrounding space suddenly froze. A sharp sword chi with an aura of devastation shot over with lightning-like speed. It dispersed the old man's soul, wiping it out. Another 5th heavenly layer saint ruler had died. The death of their 2 companions had a huge impact on the hearts of old Ghost Situ and the other 2, causing their expressions to become extremely ugly. Retreat! Ma Ting called out. He no longer cared about whether he could complete the mission given to him by the Tiger King. He used the opportunity to turn around and flee into the distance. The 4 protectors of the Blood Sword sect had no intentions of letting them go. They all chased after them as red streaks of light and intercepted the 3 of them. They began another great battle with the 3 of them. 2 of the protectors fought against the 2 6th heavenly layer saint rulers, Situ and Ma Tang, while the other 2 worked with Jianqin to kill the last 5th heavenly layer saint ruler. Their battle, 10,000 meters above the city of God, was extremely intense. Under the combined efforts of Jianqin and the 2 protectors, the last 5th heavenly layer saint ruler was slain very quickly. In the blink of an eye, only the 2 of them were left in Old Man Situ's group of 5. The expressions of Old Devil Situ and Old Devil Ma Tung became unprecedentedly solemn. Old Devil Ma Tung clenched his teeth and shouted, "We can't care so much. It will be too late if we don't leave now." Blood shield. A mouthful of essence, blood, spurted from Ma Tung's mouth. It turned into a red mist in the air that enveloped Ma Tung. Afterward, he fled into the distance with unbelievable speed, disappearing in a single moment. He was so fast that he had surpassed the speed of a saint ruler with spatial force. Without any hesitation, the Situ old man used the same secret technique to flee as a blood-red streak of light, vanishing in the blink of an eye. They used a secret technique to flee at the cost of their own strength. They won't be able to last much longer. Chase them. A protector from the blood sword sect coldly said. He then turned into a red streak of light and chased after Old Man Situ. Behind him, the other 3 protectors did not hesitate either. They pursued the 2 of them at the same time. Killing intent filled Jianshin's eyes. He fused with the surrounding space and used his control over spatial force to chase after the 2 protectors as well. At this moment, 3 huge streaks of light suddenly appeared in front of him, directly slashing toward Jianshin. Jianshin's face sank. He immediately stabbed out with his ruler armament, shattering the 3 streaks of light. However, Jianshin's pursuit was forced to come to a halt after being obstructed like that. The 3 ancestors of the 8 clans hovered in the air before Jianshin. They just happened to block his path. Yan Yutian, it's best if you stay behind. An old voice rang out from behind. Over a dozen ancestors of the 8 clans surrounded Jianshin at the same time, forming an invisible net that trapped him. Chapter 792. Jianshin slowly glanced past the ancestors of the 8 clans with a sharp gaze before glancing at Situ and Ma Teng, who had already vanished. His eyes were filled with reluctance. Although he had already killed 3 of the people who had killed his parents, 2 of them had managed to escape. If he did not kill them all, it would be difficult for Jianshin to quell his hatred. The 8 clans, Jianshin murmured. His voice was extremely cold. If he hadn't been stopped by the people of the 8 great clans, how could he have let Situ and Ma Teng escape? At this moment, all the hatred in his heart for not being able to avenge his parents had been placed on the 8 great clans. Since you want me to stay, I'll stay and fight you. Even if I die here today, I won't let you have an easy time, Jianshin said with a deep voice. Jianshin growled. His presence surged into the sky, as if it had become a heavenly sword that stabbed into the world. Not only did he show no fear when facing over a dozen saint rulers at the same time, his battle prowess soared instead. The ancestors of the 8 clans all sneered. Although they were shocked by Jianshin's battle prowess, there were over a dozen of them here. They refused to believe that Jianshin could fend off over a dozen saint rulers all by himself. This was because there were a few people who had surpassed the 5th heavenly layer of saint ruler among them. They were not people that Jianshin could deal with. Even if he possessed a defensive treasure, he would not be able to escape. The president and grand elder both sighed helplessly inside. They really did not want to see a great genius die before them like this, but the implications of this matter were just far too great. Even if they wanted to help Jianshin, they dared not do so. This was because they understood that if they interfered, the Radiant Saint Master Union would probably face destruction. Although the Union was a great organization in the Holy Emperor's empire, it was nothing before the 10 Protector clans. If the 10 Protector clans wanted the Radiant Saint Master Union to disappear from the Tianyuan continent, they only needed to use a single Protector clan to accomplish the task. While Yun Tian, who was hiding behind the president, was trembling in fear, he was also secretly delighted. Jianshin and the 8 great families of the City of God were like fire and water, weapons clashing. This was naturally what he liked to see the most. This way, his future position as the president would not be hindered in the slightest. The 6 saint rulers attacked Jianshin at the same time. Since they had personally witnessed Jianshin's strength, they did not hold back at all. They used their full strength right from the start. The saint weapons in their hands radiated with terrifying ripples of energy as they slashed toward Jianshin from different directions. The 6 saint weapons fell from the sky and seemed to form an invisible net around Jianshin, sealing off all paths of retreat for Jianshin. Jianshin roared at the sky. At that moment, he no longer cared about the depletion of his chaotic force. The chaotic Naiden in his dantian immediately surged with large amounts of chaotic force before swinging his ruler armament as hard as he could. 6 huge streaks of light shot through the air, blocking the saint weapons of the 6 saint rulers. The 6 saint rulers were all at the 4th and 5th heavenly layer, so they were on par with Genshin. Neither side gained the upper hand after the first strike. At this moment, another 3 saint rulers charged into the battlefield with a single movement. 2 of them swung their saint weapons at Genshin as hard as they could. Wherever the weapons passed, space would be ripped open. The other person struck toward Genshin with a hand filled with dense world force. Although he did not use a saint weapon, the palm strike was still extremely powerful, causing the surrounding space to distort. 6th heavenly layer saint rulers. Genshin was extremely stern. He could tell that the 3 of them had reached the 6th heavenly layer from the moment they began fighting. Even if he used a ruler armament, it would still be very difficult for him to deal with experts like that. However, he was not afraid at all. He roared at the sky, and the chaotic force within him surged into the dragon-slaying sword under his control, causing it to shine brightly. It turned into 3 streaks of light that shot toward the 2 saint rulers. The saint weapons and the hand collided with Genshin's ruler armament, immediately erupting with a violent boom. The 2 saint rulers and the hand paused slightly before continuing forward, striking Genshin's golden silk armor in the end. The golden silk armor immediately shone with a dazzling golden light, blocking the 3 saint rulers. They were unable to harm Genshin at all. A sliver of surprise flashed through the eyes of the 3 saint rulers when they saw this. Their evaluation of the golden silk armor increased once again, but they did not hesitate at all. They continued to swing their saint weapons at Genshin, while the hand grabbed the golden silk armor on Genshin in an attempt to take it away from Genshin. Don't even think about taking away what's mine. Killing intent surged from Genshin's eyes. He ignored the 2 ruler armaments that were about to reach him. He stabbed out several times with the dragon-slaying sword at the saint ruler, who tried to take away the golden silk armor. The saint ruler was the ancestor of the Marquis estate. Surging world force condensed before him. His right hand that had reached toward Genshin's golden silk armor disappeared, and his left hand directly pushed forward. The extremely compressed world force immediately shot toward Genshin in an attempt to block Genshin's ruler armament. Genshin stabbed out 3 times in a row to disperse the world force that shot toward him. The 4th attack directly stabbed toward the ancestor's head. The old ancestor of the House of Marquis tilted his head, barely dodging the sword. However, a trace of blood was left on his face by the dragon-slaying sword. A trace of chaotic force remained in the wound, instantly transforming into a wild horse that burrowed into his brain through the wound and began to wreak havoc. Bang! Bang! At the same time, the saint weapons of the other 2 6th heavenly layer saint rulers also struck Genshin's back. They were blocked by the golden light from the golden silk armor, but the violent shockwaves still pushed Genshin back. God damn it! Just what kind of power is this? The old ancestor of the House of the Marquis, who had a wound on his face, suddenly let out a cry that carried some fear. The strand of primal chaos energy that the dragon-slaying sword had left on his wound had already burrowed into his brain and was currently rampaging inside, destroying the nerves in his brain. Although the strand of energy was not much, it was extremely powerful. It was filled with a destructive presence, and its location just happened to be the weakest part of the human body, the brain. As a result, the ancestor was unable to use his saint force to deal with it. He could only watch as the strand of chaotic force wreaked havoc in his head. As the nerves in his head were continuously destroyed, an intense pain came along with it, causing the old ancestor's facial muscles to tremble nonstop. Oh no, the power is actually targeting my soul. Suddenly, the ancestor's face drastically changed. After a slight hesitation, he clenched his teeth and his soul immediately broke out of its shell. He had actually abandoned his body and fled. The other saint rulers who had yet to take action were immediately shocked when they saw the ancestor's soul escape. The other saint ruler immediately arrived before the ancestor's soul in a flash and protected it. Yang Yutian's defensive treasure is just too powerful. We can't break through it at all. The 2/6 heavenly layer saint rulers who surrounded Jianchen loudly said at this moment, "Leave him to the old man." The old man would like to see the limits of his defensive treasure and see if it can block an attack from an 8th heavenly layer saint ruler, said an old man. With a slight movement, he arrived before Jianchen. He opened his hands, and a ball of blue flames immediately began to burn. He then struck Jianchen's chest with lightning-like speed and sneered, "Yang Yutian, remember the old man's name. The old man is Horus of the Fire God clan. Today, the old man will personally kill a genius." Jianchen's golden armor immediately began to shine with a dazzling light, resisting the old man's burning hands. However, it only lasted for a few seconds before the golden light from the armor was suppressed, allowing Horus to strike Jianchen viciously. A grunt rang out from Jianchen's throat as his face immediately became rather pale. Horus was already at the peak of the 8th heavenly layer, far exceeding Jianchen's strength. Not only did he suppress the golden light from the armor with a single strike, he even injured Jianchen's chaotic body. What a tough body. He's only slightly injured after blocking the old man's attack. A sliver of amazement appeared in Horus' eyes. He suddenly clenched his hand, and the space around Jianchen immediately froze. With a pull of his hand, Jianchen rapidly approached him. The chaotic force within Jianchen violently surged as he attempted to break free from the frozen space. However, the difference in strength between him and Horus was just too great. He was unable to break free even if he used everything he had. All he could do was watch as he rapidly approached Horus. "Yang Yutian, old man, let's see if you can block a second strike," Horus sneered. Flames surged from his hands once again before striking Jianchen's chest with lightning-like speed. Spurt! Jianchen vomited a mouthful of blood as he was blown away like a cannonball. This time, the golden silk armor did not appear. Without the protection of the golden silk armor, he had to endure a strike from an 8th heavenly layer saint ruler. He was extremely heavily injured, and even his chaotic body had been destroyed. Jianchen only came to a halt after flying several kilometers. He hovered in the air with a pale face as extremely heavy killing intent filled his gaze toward Horus. Within his body, the heavy injuries caused by Horus's strike were also recovering at an extremely fast speed. The difference between an 8th heavenly layer saint ruler and a 5th heavenly layer saint ruler was just far too great. It could be described as a chasm. Jianchen could fight against 5th heavenly layer saint rulers with the help of his ruler armament, and he could even directly slay them. However, he was actually unable to fight back against an 8th heavenly layer saint ruler. Chapter 793. Blood dripped from the corner of Jianchen's mouth as he coldly stared at Horus and the other saint rulers. He switched from holding the sword with one hand to holding it with both hands as he constantly channeled chaotic force into the dragon-slaying sword. He knew that it would be very difficult for him to escape today. He had already lost the ability to flee against an 8th heavenly layer saint ruler. His only choice was to fight to the death. 8 great clans. Even if I have to die here, I, Jianchen, will never let you off so easily. Jianchen's voice was extremely cold. The sword in his hand began to shine with an extremely bright, dark light as the destructive presence became more and more powerful. Jianchen had been forced into a corner, so he did not hesitate to use a large amount of chaotic force to launch his most powerful attack. As the primal chaos force in his dantian was continuously channeled into the dragon-slaying sword, the primal chaos force in his dantian was rapidly draining away. The originally thumb-sized primal chaos Niden was shrinking at a visible rate. The chaotic Niden was the source of Jianchen's power. If it dispersed due to excessive energy consumption, Jianchen would lose his chaotic force as well. The ancestors of the 8 clans all became rather stern as they sensed the rapidly increasing destructive power from the ruler armament. One of them immediately growled, We can't let him continue like this. Senior Harris, you better get rid of Yang Yutian as soon as possible, just in case something unexpected happens." Harris nonchalantly replied, "It's fine. Although Yang Yutian's power is very strange, he's still far too weak. He can only use the strength of a fifth heavenly layer Saint Ruler with the ruler armament, so he poses no threat to me at all. Let me see what Yang Yutian's trump card is, and how powerful it is." Harris looked at Jianqin, and a sliver of disdain appeared in his eyes. He coldly said, "Yang Yutian, I'll give you a chance to strike. After that strike, I'll take your life." Jianqin remained silent. He channeled all the chaotic force in his dantian into the sword. As a large amount of chaotic force was drained away, the chaotic Niden in his dantian rapidly shrank as well. It had already shrunk from the size of a finger to the size of a bean. The ruler armament in Jianqin's hands had already been enveloped by a powerful chaotic presence, completely submerging the sword. The powerful ripples of energy tore through space, causing it to constantly distort and form pitch-black cracks. "Kacha!" Suddenly, a clear sound rang out. The sudden sound immediately made Jianqin's eyes narrow. Although he could not see it with his eyes, he could clearly sense that a tiny crack had appeared on the dragon-slaying sword. The chaotic force that had condensed on the sword was so powerful that it had almost surpassed the limits of what the sword could endure. A sliver of viciousness appeared in Jianqin's eyes. Not only did he not stop, but he also channeled even more chaotic force into the sword, causing the energy within the sword to become even more powerful. Cracking sounds constantly rang out as the cracks on the sword became even denser. Just when the cracks had spread to a small portion of the sword, the attack that Jianqin had been preparing for all this time was finally unleashed. He gripped the sword with both hands and raised it above his head before swinging it down with enough force to split a mountain. The sword tore through space with ease, obliterating it. Before the sword, space was as fragile as tofu, unable to heal itself. Afterwards, a huge streak of light condensed from surging chaotic force broke free from the dragon-slaying sword's restraints, shooting forward as a terrifying streak of sword chi. Not only was the strike the strongest attack that Jianqin could unleash right now, it also used up most of his chaotic force. The energy within the strike had completely surpassed the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. Even ruler armaments were unable to endure it. The huge sword chi shot forward with devastating might, enveloping all the Saint Rulers from the 8 clans in the City of God. All of them paled in shock. "God damn it, work together to stop it!" Harris called out and gathered all the Saint Rulers of the 8 clans to stop the strike. His complexion had become extremely ugly. The power of Jianqin's strike had completely exceeded his expectations. He could not understand how Jianqin could unleash such a terrifying strike no matter what. Even he was unable to unleash such a terrifying attack. Over a dozen experts worked together to create a barrier. Just as the barrier was about to take shape, a huge sword beam struck the barrier. The barrier shook violently and did not last long before shattering. Spurt! The Saint Rulers all vomited blood. The strike was formed from the chaotic force that Jianqin had used up, so its power had reached an extremely terrifying level. It had completely surpassed the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler and was no weaker than an attack from a holy emperor. Harris was the strongest among them, so even if they worked together, they would not be able to stop it. The huge sword chi broke through the barrier and shot toward the Saint Rulers of the 8 clans like a hot knife through butter. They were unable to dodge at all. At that critical moment, a huge hand suddenly appeared. It was like a wall in the sky, blocking the Saint Rulers of the 8 clans. Boom! The huge sword chi condensed from chaotic force, struck the huge hand, and immediately erupted with a great boom. Powerful ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings, obliterating space and plunging it into darkness. The hand was like an unbreakable shield, completely blocking the huge sword chi and saving the Saint Rulers of the 8 great clans from the danger. In the end, the huge sword chi ran out of energy and dispersed in the air. Afterward, the huge hand gradually faded before vanishing in the end, revealing a middle-aged woman in violet clothes and an old man in blue robes. The middle-aged woman maintained her extended hand. Greetings to the two seniors. The saint rulers of the 8 clans all knelt down and bowed when they saw the two of them. Their faces were filled with respect. The middle-aged woman in purple slowly retracted her slender hand. She expressionlessly scanned the surroundings and coldly said, "I never thought that the city of God would become so chaotic after just one trip to the Guardian clan. If I hadn't returned in time, I'm afraid you all would have met with disaster." "You're right, Senior. Thank you for saving our lives," the ancestors of the 8 clans all said. All of them were slightly pale. The strike had frightened them, making them experience a life-threatening situation that they had not experienced for many years. The middle-aged woman looked at Jianchen before looking at the white tiger on Jianchen's shoulder. Her eyes immediately lit up, and she asked emotionlessly, "You're Yang Yutian?" Jianchen remained silent. He was extremely heavy inside. The middle-aged woman had blocked a strike that had cost him most of his chaotic force. So easily. She was definitely a holy emperor with such strength, and even among the holy emperor realm experts, she would definitely be ranked at the very top. "Senior, he's Yang Yutian, a saint ruler from the 8 clans behind the middle-aged woman," said softly. "I never thought that you'd be a fighter as well, but no matter who you are, you have to leave behind the winged tiger on you." With that, the space around Jianchen immediately froze. The space that froze this time was much tougher than any time Jianchen had encountered before. It was like an extremely tough piece of metal, pressing down on Jianchen's body tightly. He could not even move a finger. The middle-aged woman silently appeared in front of Jianchen. She reached out with her white, jade-like hand to grab the little white tiger. Boom! At this moment, a violent boom suddenly rang out from afar. It shook the surroundings, causing the entire city of God to shake violently. The middle-aged woman forcefully stopped her hand that reached toward the white tiger. She suddenly turned her head in the direction of the radiant Saint Master Union. Her indifferent gaze sharpened at that moment. The sudden sound attracted everyone's attention. The president and grand elder immediately looked in the direction of the sound as well. To their surprise, it was the headquarters of the Radiant Saint Master Union. Suddenly, the president's face changed drastically. He cried out, "It's a saint artifact. Oh no, the saint artifact has escaped." With that, a golden streak of light shot over from afar with lightning speed, directly landing in Jianchen's hand. It was a golden tower that was only 3 inches tall. A saint artifact. That's a saint artifact of our union. Why has it escaped? The president's face changed drastically. He stared at this in disbelief. The middle-aged woman was stunned by this as well, but she returned to her senses soon after. She looked at the palm-sized golden tower that had flown into Jianchen's hand by itself, and a strange light immediately flashed through her eyes. She immediately extended her right hand toward the golden tower. Just as the middle-aged woman's hand approached the golden pagoda, a rather large fist suddenly appeared in the void and directly punched towards the middle-aged woman. The middle-aged woman's expression changed, and the hand that was grabbing at the golden pagoda changed direction, bringing with it a layer of heaven and earth energy to meet the incoming fist. Bang! With a thunderous sound, the middle-aged woman's hand collided with the fist, causing the surrounding space to violently tremble. The middle-aged woman's face drastically changed after the strike. She immediately retreated as she stared at the fist that had appeared in the air in shock. She cried out, "The Holy Emperor's 9th heavenly layer!" A bare-chested, middle-aged man slowly appeared in the void. The middle-aged man was burly, with a strong back and a strong waist. He radiated a ferocious aura. He glanced at the beautiful woman indifferently, then lost interest. He looked up at the sky, then at the ground beneath his feet. His expression grew more and more excited. His entire body was trembling slightly. He said in a trembling voice, I'm out, I'm finally out. I've finally returned to the world where the ancestors were originally from. The middle-aged man was the greatest expert in the artifact space, the 300-meter-long golden divine dragon. After the middle-aged man, another dozen or so figures slowly appeared in the sky. Every single one of them radiated with a valiant presence, suffocating the saint rulers present. We've finally come out. We've finally come out. From now on, we've regained our freedom. We don't need to be trapped in that damned space anymore. I've finally come out. I've regained my freedom. I've finally returned to the world of my ancestors. The dozen Class 8 magical beasts that had just escaped from the artifact space all raised their heads and roared at the sky. Their voices were filled with unconcealable excitement, and a few of them even began to shed tears. Those were tears of excitement. The middle-aged woman's face became extremely ugly. She cried out, "Why have over 10 Holy Emperor-level experts suddenly appeared? And one of them has even reached the 9th heavenly layer. No, that's not the aura of humans. They're all high-grade magic beasts." The middle-aged woman's face suddenly turned pale. Chapter 794. In the City of God, the old ancestors of the 8 great clans and the beautiful middle-aged woman from the Tsar clan were all floating in the air with a dazed expression. The sudden appearance of the aura of over a dozen Class 8 magical beasts had caused a huge impact on their hearts. A single Class 8 magical beast was equivalent to a human Holy Emperor, and due to their innate talent, they were extremely powerful. Very few humans of the same level of strength were their opponents. Yet now, over a dozen Class 8 magical beasts had suddenly appeared. They were equivalent to over a dozen Holy Emperor experts, and one of them had even reached the peak of Class 8. Even the Protector clans would shiver in fear when faced with such a lineup. These magical beasts were more powerful than any single Protector clan when working together. Even the Protector clans would need to work together to deal with them. Are you people from the Beast God continent? Didn't the Protector clans make an agreement with Lankiros that you're not allowed to set foot on the Tianyuan continent for 3 months? Why have you broken the agreement so quickly? The middle-aged woman from the Tsar family growled. Even she felt fear when she saw so many Class 8 magical beasts. The freed Class 8 magical beasts all roared at the sky. Their voices were filled with joy, as if they wanted to vent all the frustration they had accumulated from being trapped for several thousand years. The ancestors of these magical beasts had been taken into the artifact space in ancient times. Over the countless years, the descendants of their ancestors had all lived in the artifact space. They grew up in there, became powerful in there, and even died in there. Their ancestors all knew that there was an even vaster world outside, but they were unable to break free from the restraints of the artifact space. As a result, leaving the artifact space and going to the outside world had basically become the lifelong wish of every single high-class magical beast in the artifact space. At this moment, the wish that had been buried in their hearts for a long time had finally come to fruition. This made the dozen or so Class 8 magical beasts feel unconcealable joy, and they couldn't help but shed tears of excitement. Not only was this a day that they had been looking forward to for a very long time, but it was also the greatest wish of their deceased ancestors. They had been looking forward to this day for far, far too long. After a long while, the dozen or so Class 8 magical beasts finally calmed down and began to examine this world with curiosity in their eyes. The golden divine dragon looked at the middle-aged woman and could not help but think of what she had just said. He asked, "What did you just say? What beast god continent? Are you not magical beasts from the beast god continent?" The middle-aged woman was surprised. She glanced at the saint artifact in Gentian's hand from the corner of her eye. "Beast god continent," the golden divine dragon murmured. His eyes were slightly lost because there was no information regarding the beast god continent in his inherited memories. When his ancestor had been sucked into the artifact space, the winged tiger had led magical beasts to attack the 100 races. At that time, the beast god continent was still occupied by the 100 races. The golden divine dragon looked at the two people behind him and sighed emotionally. After so many years, it looks like this world has changed a lot. It's no longer the world in our ancestors' memories. The two people behind the golden divine dragon were the mutated divine crocodile and the scorching divine phoenix in human form. They were a black-robed old man and a red-clothed young woman. The two of them revealed rather mixed feelings. Although they were very excited that they had returned to their homeland, they felt like they had arrived in an extremely foreign world after calming down. A sliver of loneliness flashed through the scorching divine phoenix's eyes, but it disappeared very quickly. She said, "The energy of the world in this world is much more abundant than in the artifact space. I reached the peak of the 8th heavenly layer 300 years ago. I'm only a step away from the 9th heavenly layer. I need to find a place to cultivate immediately." Afterward, the scorching divine phoenix looked at the white tiger on Jianshin's shoulder. A sliver of surprise flashed through her eyes before she looked at the tiny golden tower in Jianshin's hand. She said, "Artifact spirit, we've already helped you break the ancient oath. According to our agreement, you can't interfere with our freedom in the future. Honglien will be taking her leave first." With that, the scorching divine phoenix glanced at the white tiger one last time before disappearing as a red streak of light. The golden divine dragon looked at the winged tiger on Jianshin's shoulder with extremely mixed feelings. He said, "I never thought that I'd come across a winged tiger as soon as I came out. It's a pity that it's too weak." The golden divine dragon gently sighed and murmured, "So many years have passed. I wonder if my clansmen are still around. I need to return to the dragon clan. According to the information I've obtained from my inherited memories, the dragon clan seems to be located on an island in the ocean." The dragon clan? Are you talking about the dragon clan, one of the 4 great clans of magical beasts from the ancient times? The middle-aged woman from the Tsar family asked in surprise. A gleam of light flashed through the golden divine dragon's eyes. He stared at the woman in interest and said, "You actually know about the dragon clan? What's the current situation of the dragon clan?" The middle-aged woman immediately gasped after receiving confirmation. Her gaze toward the golden divine dragon changed drastically as well. The dragon clan has already ceased to exist a very long time ago. They vanished long ago, including the divine phoenix clan from the ancient times. They've all vanished. The dragon clan and divine phoenix clan no longer exist on the beast god continent now. What? Vanished? How is that possible? The golden divine dragon was stunned. A sliver of disbelief appeared in his eyes. According to his inherited memories, the dragon clan was a powerful clan. They were the rulers among magical beasts. The middle-aged woman had completely confirmed the identities of the Class 8 magical beasts. She said, "I know a little about the matters of the ancient times as well. It's said that the dragon clan and the phoenix clan vanished at the same time, and the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger, vanished with them." Vanished, vanished. My dragon clan has already vanished. The golden divine dragon's face was filled with indescribable sorrow and loneliness. He seemed to have lost all his family when he heard what the middle-aged woman had said. "I need to return to Dragon Island and take a look," the golden divine dragon murmured. "Ruijin, I'll go with you," the mutated divine crocodile said from beside the golden divine dragon. The golden divine dragon nodded slightly. There were not a lot of people he was familiar with in the artifact space. There were only 2 of them. One of them was the scorching divine phoenix that had just left, while the other was the mutated divine crocodile beside him. Suddenly, the golden divine dragon's face changed slightly. 2 streaks of golden light immediately shot into the sky as he said with a deep voice, "Oh no, there are quite a few experts ripping through space. I they seem to be people from the 10 protector clans of the Tianyuan continent. According to the information I've obtained from my inherited memories, we magical beasts have been at odds with humans since the ancient times. We hate each other, so we can't let them come. I'll use the abilities of my clan to seal off 100,000 kilometers of space so that they can't rip through space. Let's use this time to disperse. The golden divine dragon suddenly began to shine with an extremely bright golden light, illuminating the entire sky and dyeing the world golden. It formed a wondrous sight that had never appeared in 10,000 years above the city of God, shocking countless people below. The golden light that illuminated the world gathered on his hands. His hands were shining brightly as they rapidly changed hand seals. As the hand seals changed, the surrounding void seemed to have become a heart, which began to beat rhythmically. Secret technique of the Dragon Clan, Heaven Sealing Entrapment. The golden divine dragon called out as he struck out with a golden symbol that fused with the space. Immediately, the space within 100,000 kilometers underwent some subtle changes. It seemed to have become a different domain in that moment, changing the laws of the world. The expressions of the middle-aged woman from the Tsar family and all the saint rulers from the 8 clans changed drastically. They discovered that they were unable to control the world force, and they were unable to use spatial force as well. It was as if the laws of the world had been forcefully changed by someone in that moment. It was no longer the original world. What is this ability? It's so terrifying. Everyone was shocked. They had never heard of or seen a divine ability that could change the laws of heaven and earth. Even the Holy Emperor probably could not do something like this. I've used a secret technique to seal 100,000 kilometers of space. It can only last for 10 seconds. Let's go, the golden divine dragon said to his companions behind him. The Class 8 magical beasts did not hesitate at all. They all tore open a space gate and crossed thousands of kilometers with a single step, leaving the city of God far away. Artifact Spirit, farewell. I hope we will never meet again. The golden divine dragon said to the artifact through gritted teeth. His voice was still filled with resentment. After being trapped for thousands of years, it was impossible to say that he did not feel resentment towards the artifact spirit at all. However, he also understood that the artifact spirit was bound by the ancient oath and had its own reasons. Rue Jean, Exalt, it's very dangerous for you to stay here. Send Exalt away while you're at it, the artifact spirit's voice rang out in the golden divine dragon's ears. All right, I'll help you this time, the golden divine dragon said through gritted teeth. The golden god dragon said through gritted teeth. Then, with a wave of his hand, the space was torn apart and a space gate was formed instantly. The moment the space gate formed, Genshin immediately felt an irresistible force envelop him. He was directly sent into the space gate and disappeared. The middle-aged beauty immediately panicked when she saw Genshin flee. She wanted to chase after him, but when she glanced at the golden divine dragon from the corner of her eye, she immediately suppressed her impulse. The saint artifact, Yang Yutian, returned the saint artifact to us. The president panicked when he saw Genshin vanish into the space gate. The saint artifact was the treasure of the Radiant Saint Master Union. It was extremely important. If they lost the saint artifact, there would be no reason for the Union to continue existing. This was because they possessed the saint artifact. They had grasped the secret of reaching Class 7 from Class 6, which was why they were able to gather all the powerful Radiant Saint Masters on the Tianyuan continent and reach their current status. Blackfish, let's go as well. After sending off Genshin, the golden divine dragon ripped open another space gate and left with the mutated divine crocodile. In the blink of an eye, all the Class 8 magical beasts that had emerged from the artifact space had left. No one knew where they had gone. Even Genshin managed to escape with the help of the golden divine dragon. At the same time, he took the saint artifact with him. Chapter 795. A few seconds later, the surrounding space violently pulsed. Large ripples appeared like water, and afterwards 11 spatial cracks suddenly appeared, quickly forming space gates. Immediately, quite a few people emerged. They were the people from the Protector clans and Mercenary City. The person leading the group from Mercenary City was the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Tianjian. Suddenly, another spatial crack appeared, and an old man in plain clothes walked out from it. The old man had come alone, but no one dared to underestimate him with his appearance. Even the strongest experts from the Protector clans looked at the old man sternly. Sect Master of the Bloodsword Sect, Houston, I never thought you'd come as well. Tianjian smiled at the old man. Over a dozen presences of Class 8 magical beasts have suddenly appeared. As a human, how can I not come when something so major has happened? Houston was emotionless, and his voice was very indifferent. However, he was nowhere near as calm as he seemed on the surface. What happened here? Why have over a dozen presences of Class 8 magical beasts suddenly appeared? A middle-aged woman with an ordinary appearance asked. She was the pavilion master of the Pure Heart Pavilion. Also, this space seems to have been sealed by a mysterious power earlier, preventing the space gate we created from reaching this place. We've been delayed by quite a bit, or the Class 8 magical beasts definitely wouldn't have been able to escape so quickly, said a middle-aged man. He was also a peak expert from the Protector clans. The middle-aged woman from the Tsar family did not hide anything. She explained everything that had just happened in detail. She did not even hide the winged tiger god. What? The winged tiger is following a junior who's both a Radiant Saint Master and a fighter? How can a Radiant Saint Master and a fighter exist at the same time? An expert from the Protector clans immediately voiced his doubts. This was because a Radiant Saint Master and a fighter could not exist on the Tianyuan continent at the same time. This was basically an indisputable fact, because there had never been a person who was both a Radiant Saint Master and a fighter since ancient times. I never thought that all the Class 8 magical beasts trapped in the artifact space would escape. This is an extremely bad thing for our Tianyuan continent. If they work together with the experts of the Beast God continent, the strength of the Beast God continent will definitely increase drastically, said the ancestor of the Chanyang Prefecture, Chanyang Qinyan. Let's not talk about this right now. Our priority is to find the winged tiger. We can't let the experts of the Beast God continent obtain the winged tiger first, or our Tianyuan continent will be doomed once the winged tiger reaches its peak, said an expert from a Protector clan. Why don't we work together and use a secret technique to search the entire Tianyuan continent and find that person? Someone suggested. Afterward, a holy emperor from the Protector clans stepped forward. They worked together to use a secret technique to search the entire Tianyuan continent. Mercenary City did not participate. The Grand Elder Tianjian hovered in the air as he watched them use the secret technique. He also felt rather worried, afraid that they would find Jianqin. Houston was also worried. He treated Jianqin as his successor, and he had personally witnessed Jianqin grow from an Earth Saint Master with a Shattered Saint weapon to such a level. He obviously did not wish for such an unprecedented prodigy to die along the way. This was because he understood that if Jianqin continued on, his future accomplishments would definitely be no less than his own. He might even surpass him and become the second Holy Emperor on the Tianyuan continent. The search lasted around 10 minutes before it finally came to an end. However, the people responsible for the search all had very ugly expressions. One of them said, "We've already searched the entire Tianyuan continent, but we haven't sensed the presence of the winged tiger. However, we have discovered a few Class 8 magical beasts that have emerged from the artifact space." The faces of the people from the Protector clans sank with that, while Tianjian and Houston let out a sigh of relief. Since we can't find the winged tiger, why don't we kill the Class 8 magical beasts that have escaped from the artifact space and weaken the Beast God continent? An old woman from a Protector clan said with a hoarse voice. No. If we kill those Class 8 magical beasts, we may be able to weaken the Beast God Continent's strength. But we'll definitely end up angering the Beast God Continent. It'll cause the war between our continents to erupt prematurely. That's extremely disadvantageous to us. As soon as the old woman raised her opinion, a voice of objection rang out. That's right. Our Tianyuan continent has always been weaker than the Beast God Continent, so we can't start a war prematurely right now. We still need some time to gather all our strength. Only then will we have the power to fight them. The matter at hand is to find the winged tiger as soon as possible. On a plain several million kilometers away from the Holy Emperor's empire, Jianqin sat on the ground as he looked at the palm-sized golden tower in his hand. The workmanship of the tower was extremely exquisite. It was divided into a total of 9 floors, and it shone with golden light. It was quite pretty. So this is what the saint artifacts of the Radiant Saint Master Union look like. But artifact spirit, why have you left the Union? Jianqin looked at the golden tower in his hand again and again as if he was talking to himself. The wounds he had received from the battle against the saint rulers from the 8 great clans had already been completely healed by the monstrous regenerative abilities of the chaotic body. Exalted One, I've stayed in the Union for several 100,000 years. I don't want to remain in this world forever. I'm willing to follow by your side and see an even vaster world. The artifact spirit's voice rang out in Jianqin's head. It was extremely sincere. Artifact spirit, at least you know how to follow by Master's side. Don't worry, Master's future accomplishments will be limitless. Once Master becomes powerful, there will be plenty of benefits for you. All you need to do is gather some materials and refine this artifact of yours, and your strength will increase by several 100 times. Ziying's voice suddenly rang out. Jianqin could clearly feel the golden tower in his hand tremble by an undetectable amount. Clearly, Ziying's words had made the artifact spirit extremely excited. Artifact spirit, just how powerful are you right now? Can you help me fend off the experts of the Protector clans? Jianqin asked. This was the question he cared about the most. Master, don't count on this artifact's artifact spirit. This artifact is a support artifact, not an attack artifact. Its battle prowess is pitifully weak. It can be used to store some things, but if it's used against enemies, it probably won't even be able to harm Master at all. Ziying's voice rang out in Jianqin's head. Jianqin immediately became stunned when he heard that. He said in disbelief, "How is that possible? Can't the artifact spirit seal Class 8 magical beasts? Why is it so weak? Exalted One, you might not know this, but I am indeed a support artifact. My purpose is to absorb the Radiant Saint Masters in the world and convert them into origin energy. If I'm in the artifact space, I can unleash strength equivalent to a Saint Emperor. If I'm outside, my strength will be drastically reduced, and it'll be difficult for me to deal with a Saint Ruler." The artifact spirit's voice was filled with bitterness. Jianqin secretly sighed inside. Originally, he wanted to use the artifact spirit to fend off the Protector clans, but it seemed like it was all a fantasy now. Artifact spirit, why don't you recognize me as your master? Ziying's dignified voice rang out in the artifact spirit's head. With that, the artifact spirit immediately quivered. After a moment of hesitation, it immediately recognized Jianqin as its master. It then shot into Jianqin's forehead as a golden streak of light and disappeared. It had already arrived in Jianqin's sea of consciousness, obediently hovering beside the sword spirits that were absorbing the energy from the 5-colored crystal. "Master, I've already recognized you as my master. You can put the winged tiger into the artifact space." The artifact spirit's voice rang out in Jianqin's head. With that, Jianqin hesitated for a while. After asking for the white tiger's opinion, he finally put the white tiger into the artifact space. That way, he would be able to hide his identity better and avoid many unnecessary troubles. After the artifact spirit recognized him as its master, Jianqin finally relaxed. Now that the artifact spirit was by his side at all times, becoming a Class 7, Radiant Saint Master was no longer a problem. He only needed to wait for a year before the seal on the Radiant Saint Force origin energy was removed. Then he would become a Class 7, Radiant Saint Master, possessing the ability to come back from the dead. Jianqin stood up and took out a set of blue robes from his space ring. After dressing himself up as a fighter, he left. 2 hours later, Jianqin had already traveled 10,000 kilometers away. He then entered a first-class city, planning on buying a map to find his way home. As soon as he entered the city, Jianqin heard the news of the winged tiger everywhere. Even the commoners knew about the winged tiger. Jianqin listened to the discussions of the winged tiger as he made his way to the largest grocery store in the city. He then bought the largest map. I never thought I'd actually come here. Jianqin immediately smiled bitterly when he saw the markings on the map. He was currently in the Felicity Empire, one of the 3 great empires. He was almost 10 million kilometers away from the Holy Emperor's empire. Why have I come so far away? This is bad. If I don't have a space gate, who knows how long it'll take for me to return to the kingdom of Jessin? Jianqin bitterly smiled. He immediately felt a headache coming on. Whatever. Let's see if I can find a space gate first. Jianqin put away the map and left the city. He planned on trying to find a space gate to return. That way, he could save a lot of time on the road. 3 days later, Jianqin flew through the air. He was heading towards a relatively powerful sect. He wanted to see if he could find a public space gate nearby. Suddenly, the space before Jianqin tore open, and a space gate quickly formed. A middle-aged man in white robes stepped out from it. Senior. Seeing the middle-aged man, Jianqin's face immediately lit up with joy. This person was the great elder of the City of Soldiers, Tianjian. Chapter 796. Tianjian had come alone. Although he seemed ordinary, he gave off an otherworldly presence in his white robes. The fierce wind in the sky blew against him, causing his white robes to ruffle violently. His black hair danced in the wind as well. Tianjian looked at Jianqin with mixed feelings and said, I never thought that you'd actually come so far away. Jianqin, it's fortunate that I left an imprint on you, or it really would have been difficult to find you. Jianqin, the people of the 10 protector clans are searching for you across the entire continent. The Tianyuan continent is no longer suitable for you. It's best if you leave as soon as possible. Jianqin's face changed slightly when he heard that. He said in a hurry, Senior, the white tiger already has a place to hide, so there's no need to worry about being found. At the same time, the Tianyuan continent is so large, so it'll be very difficult for the protector clans to find me if I hide. The place you speak of should be the Saint artifact of the Radiant Saint Master Union, right? Tianjian stared at Jianqin deeply. Jianqin had shocked him more and more. Not only had he obtained the winged tiger's follower, but he had also formed an inseparable bond with the winged tiger since he was young. Even the barrier spirit that rarely appeared in Mercenary City seemed to have a mysterious relationship with Jianqin. Yet now, even the Saint artifact that had existed in the Union for countless years had chosen to follow Jianqin. All of this seemed to tell Tianjian that the young man before him could not be compared to the other geniuses. Jianqin nodded. Senior's guesses are correct. It's indeed within the artifact space. The white tiger is in there, so the protector clans shouldn't be able to find him. No, it's not as simple as you think. Tianjian shook his head gently. Jianqin, you once stayed in the Union, so you should understand what a Saint artifact means to the Union. Now that you've taken away the Saint artifact, you've basically taken away the Union's lifeline. In the future, it won't just be the protector clans looking for you. Even the Union won't let you go because Saint artifacts are just far too important to Radiant Saint Masters. Jianqin fell silent. How could he not understand what Tianjian was saying? However, the Saint artifact was just far too helpful to him right now. Not only was it his hope of breaking through to Class 7, but it was also the White Tiger's hiding place. Jianqin found it very difficult to return the Saint artifact. At the same time, the Saint artifact possessed a spirit. It had its own thoughts and was willing to follow him. Moreover, it had already accepted him as its master. Even if Jianqin wanted to return the Saint artifact, it would be difficult for him to do so. The figures of the president and grand elder flashed through his head. Jianqin could not help but feel slightly guilty. Not only had he failed to live up to their expectations, but he had also caused great trouble for the Union. President, Grand Elder, Jianqin will definitely make up for the losses of the Union in the future, Jianqin said inside. Jianqin, the Saint artifact, has already existed in the Union for countless years. I don't know if the Union has a way to find the Saint artifact or not. At the same time, the Protector clans have already mobilized all their forces on the continent to search for you. They've already collected your portraits. Your portraits will probably cover the entire continent before long. At that time, there won't be any place for you on the continent. Senior, what should I do then? Do I have to leave the Tianyuan continent? Even if I leave the continent, the experts of the Beast God continent will probably come looking for me. Jianqin's heart was extremely heavy. Tianjin sank into his thoughts and murmured, "There's probably only one place for you to go now. Only that place will make the Protector clans and the Beast God continent fear you." "What place?" Jianqin asked curiously. "The Sea Race," Tianjin replied slowly. "The Sea Race of the 4 ancient races?" Jianqin asked in surprise. Tianjin nodded. "Correct. It's the Sea Race of the 4 ancient races. Only the Sea Race possesses the power to make the Protector clans and the Beast God continent fear, because the god of the Sea Race is still alive. 1,000 years ago, I sensed Poseidon's presence. He's still alive." Jianqin trembled violently when he heard that. His heart churned. The 4 ancient experts were the greatest human expert: Mo Tianyin, the Winged Tiger, the War God, Aruejin, and Poseidon. Their strength had reached a level that everyone could only look up to. They had all surpassed the Holy Emperor. "Jianqin, I'll take you back. Don't stay on the Tianyuan continent for too long. Deal with some miscellaneous matters once you get back, and then I'll send you off." Jianqin gently sighed. This was the only way to protect Jianqin. Afterward, he gently waved his hand, and an invisible force immediately swept Jianqin away through a space gate. When Jianqin reappeared, he had already arrived outside Lore City in the kingdom of Jessen. Tianjin had come with him. "Jianqin, go home and tell them everything you need to tell them." "I'll wait for you here," Tianjin nonchalantly said. Jianqin said nothing. He was about to leave the Tianyuan continent, but he was unable to cheer up because he knew that he was about to leave all his family and friends. Who knew when he would be able to return? Perhaps he would only be able to return to the Tianyuan continent once he possessed the power to fend off the Protector clans and the Beast God continent. However, he had no idea just how far away that day was. Perhaps everything would have changed by the time he returned to the Tianyuan continent several years later. Jianqin was filled with indescribable loneliness. He flew toward the Changyang prefecture in Lore City with a heavy heart. The news of searching for the ancient divine beast, the Winged Tiger, spread throughout Lore City. Basically everyone on the Tianyuan continent knew about the Winged Tiger now. Jianqin returned to Changyang prefecture. His return immediately caused the prefecture to bustle with activity. Many of the senior members hurried over from various places, surrounding Jianqin and asking about his well-being. Their faces were filled with respect and concern, as well as some pride. After exchanging some pleasantries with the senior members of Changyang Prefecture, Jianqin called Chang Bo to his room. With a wave of his hand, he cast down a transparent barrier around the room. Chang Bo could tell from his expression that Jianqin was in a bad mood. Perhaps something terrible had happened, coupled with how cautious Jianqin was. Changbo immediately became rather stern. He said, "Fourth young master, you're so cautious. Has something happened?" Jianqin turned around and studied his room. He could not help but think about the past. He then gently sighed. "Changbo, I need to leave for a while. It'll probably be a very long time." "Fourth young master, did something big happen?" Uncle Chang's face was full of worry. Jianqin nodded. "Something has happened. Changbo, after I leave, I'll leave Changyang Prefecture in your care." "Fourth young master, you don't need to worry about Changyang Prefecture. You just need to be more careful in the future." Changbo's voice was filled with concern. He had already guessed that Jianqin had probably provoked some powerful enemies outside. At this moment, Jianqin took out over a dozen Class 6 monster cores from his space ring and placed them on the table. He said, "Changbo, these Class 6 monster cores will be of great help to your cultivation. I don't need them now, so take them. I hope that when I return next time, Changbo, you'll have already broken through to Saint Ruler." Jianqin explained a few things to Changbo before leaving the room. He then made his way to the backyard of Changyang Prefecture, where his brother, Changyang, who lived. Changbo stared at the Class 6 monster cores that Jianqin had left behind with mixed feelings. He slowly walked over and put them all away into his space ring. Afterward, he looked out the window in a daze, as if he had sunk into a distant memory. After a long while, Changbo murmured, "Right now, the 10 protector clans of the Tianyuan continent have all emerged. They're all searching for news of the ancient winged tiger. Fourth young master once had a cub that was extremely similar to a winged tiger. Could it be the winged tiger? Otherwise, with fourth young master's strength, who could force him into such a state? Master, you've already left for several hundred years. There's not much time left before the end of your life. Where are you right now? If the ancestors know that you've left behind an unprecedented genius for Changyang Prefecture, I think they'll definitely forgive you and cancel your punishment, allowing you to successfully become a saint ruler." Uncle Chang murmured in a low voice. 2 streams of turbid tears flowed from his eyes. Jianqin arrived at the independent building where his elder brother, Changyang, who lived. He saw Changyang, who half lying in a wheelchair as a maid slowly pushed him through the garden. "Elder brother," Jianqin called out as he walked directly toward Changyang, who, "Ah, it's fourth young master. I've seen you before." When the maid saw that it was Jianqin, she was immediately shocked and hurriedly bowed to Jianqin. "Fourth brother, you've finally returned." Changyang, who looked at Jianqin with a faint smile on his face. However, his voice was extremely calm, without the slightest ripple of emotion. Jianqin quickly arrived beside Changyang, who and had the maid leave. He then pushed the wheelchair and led Changyang through the garden. Jianqin's gaze swept across the flowers as he said softly, "Elder brother, I've come to bid you farewell this time." Changyang, who smiled and said, "Fourth brother, every time you've come back, you've only stayed for a few days before leaving in a hurry. Tell me, how many days have you spent in the manor these past few years?" Hearing this, Jianqin laughed dryly. He then pushed the wheelchair into the loft and said, "Elder brother, I've come back this time to not only bid you farewell, but also to do something else. That is, to restore your limbs." Chapter 797. Restore My Limbs. Changyang, who was surprised, he looked at Jianqin and smiled. "Brother, are you already a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master?" Jianqin's words about restoring Changyang, whose limbs did not make Changyang happy at all. Perhaps to the current him, his limbs were no longer important. Jianqin shook his head and said, "Brother, I may not be a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master right now, but I do have the ability to restore your limbs. Brother, don't move for now. I'll send you to another place. Only there can you restore your limbs." Jianqin opened his hand and a palm-sized golden tower suddenly appeared. A white light emerged from the tower and enveloped Changyang, Hu, causing him to disappear. Afterward, Jianchen was also enveloped by a white light. He was sucked into the artifact space. Only the palm-sized golden tower hovered in the empty room. The reason why Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters could regrow limbs and even bring the dead back to life was all because of the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force. Only origin energy could do all of this. Although Jianchen was not a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master and had not obtained the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force, he still possessed the Saint Artifact. If he sucked Changyang Hu into the artifact space, the artifact spirit could easily restore him. The hall that had been destroyed by the power of the ancient oath reappeared in the artifact space. Suddenly, there was a flash of white light, and Changyang Hu appeared out of nowhere in the majestic hall. Changyang Hu studied the unfamiliar environment around him. A sliver of confusion and surprise appeared in his eyes. However, before he could take a closer look at his surroundings, a white light flashed beside him. Jianchen appeared beside Changyang Hu in tight robes. "Brother, where is this place?" Changyang Hu asked curiously. "Brother, this is another space. Only here can your limbs be restored," Jianchen said with a smile. "Master." A heavy voice rang out. The artifact spirit silently appeared beside Jianchen like a ghost. Jianchen looked at the artifact spirit and said, "Artifact spirit, I'll leave my brother's wounds to you." "Don't worry, Master. Although you can't absorb my Radiant Saint Force origin energy, you can still heal the wounds of others. Moreover, your brother isn't very powerful, so his body is rather fragile. You only need half a strand of origin energy to heal his severed limbs." With that, the artifact spirit extended a finger, and a strand of origin energy rapidly formed, shining with dazzling white light. "Is this the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force?" Jianchen could not help but narrow his eyes. This was the first time he had seen the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force with his own eyes. He could sense that the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force was not very different from regular Radiant Saint Force. They were of the same nature. However, he could sense an extremely tremendous life force within the origin energy. It was countless times more powerful than the Radiant Saint Force he could control. This was a qualitative leap. The difference between the two was like a chasm. When the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force entered Changyang Hu's body, a dazzling white light immediately rose up from Changyang Hu's body, enveloping him completely. Jianchen's eyes shone brightly as he stared at Changyang Hu, who was enveloped by the white light. His gaze seemed to be able to pierce through the extremely dense Radiant Saint Force and see what was happening inside. Gradually, a sliver of excitement appeared on Jianchen's face. Due to his excitement, he clenched his fists tightly. With the assistance of the origin energy, he could clearly see Changyang Hu's severed limbs regenerating at a visible rate. This lasted for 10 whole minutes before the white light around Changyang Hu gradually dispersed, revealing Changyang Hu's burly figure. Changyang Hu remained in his wheelchair, but his arms and legs were no longer empty. They had grown back. The new arms and legs were as white as an infant's. They were extremely thick, matching Changyang Hu's burly figure very well. White light flowed on the surface of the new arms and legs. This was the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force that had not been depleted yet. The remaining Radiant Saint Force origin energy remained in Changyang Hu's body. He could not use it, nor could he control it. However, it brought unimaginable benefits to his body. If he was heavily injured in the future, the remaining origin energy would play a huge role. Changyang Hu studied his new limbs as he sat in his wheelchair. He was not excited at all. Instead, he was rather mixed. He stood up rather stiffly and paced around the hall a few times. He sighed gently and said, "It's good that I've recovered. At least I can take care of myself in the future. I don't need anyone to wait on me anymore. That's much more convenient." To Changyang Hu, the regenerating of his limbs only seemed to be of some help to him in the future. "Brother, you can still continue to cultivate in the future, Jianqin said softly. He did not know whether Changyang, whose attitude was good or bad. Changyang, who shook his head gently and said, "No, I don't plan on cultivating in the future. Brother, I've already seen through life in the past few days. In Big Brother's eyes, those powerful martial artists might not necessarily have a happier life than ordinary people. Moreover, no matter how strong you were, the final result would still be the same as ordinary people. They would all turn into a pile of dirt and be blown away by the wind, vanishing into thin air. Even the 4 supreme experts of the ancient times were unable to escape the erosion of time. They've already disappeared from this world." Jianqin sighed secretly. He knew that Changyang, who had changed a lot after that tragedy. He even doubted whether the Changyang who in front of him was still the same person who had studied with him in Kargath Academy a few years ago, now that his brother's broken limbs had all recovered. This was something that Jianqin should be happy about. However, his brother's expression did not make him happy at all. Jianqin turned his head to look at the artifact spirit and said, "Artifact spirit, do you have the ability to bring someone back from the dead?" "Master, I can only regenerate broken limbs at most. As for bringing someone back from the dead, it's not something that I, the artifact spirit, can do. This is because if you want to bring someone back from the dead, you need to learn the 3 soul-controlling techniques. You need to use the techniques to condense the dispersed soul of the dead and then nourish it with the origin energy of radiant saint force before pouring it back into the body. Only then can you bring someone back from the dead," the artifact spirit explained. Jianqin frowned slightly when he heard that. He had spent quite some time as a radiant saint master, but he had never thought that bringing someone back from the dead would require the 3 soul-controlling techniques. "Haven't you learned the 3 soul-controlling techniques with your abilities?" Jianqin asked again. The artifact spirit bitterly smiled. "Master, to learn the 3 soul-controlling techniques, you need to possess 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls. I'm only an artifact spirit born from an artifact, so I'm different from humans. I don't have a soul at all, so I obviously can't learn the 3 soul-controlling techniques. However, I do know the cultivation method of the 3 soul-controlling techniques. However, only Class 7, Radiant Saint Masters who have fused with origin energy can learn them. Once you become a Class 7, Radiant Saint Master, I'll tell you the cultivation method of the 3 soul-controlling techniques." A sliver of disappointment appeared in Jianqin's eyes. Originally, he thought that he could use the artifact spirit to bring his parents back to life, but he never thought that he would need the 3 soul-controlling techniques to bring someone back from the dead. "Whatever. I'll put the matter of bringing my parents back to life aside for now," Jianqin thought. Afterward, he left the artifact space with his brother, Changyang Hu, and returned to the independent courtyard. The 2 brothers chatted for 2 hours in the room before Jianqin bid farewell to his brother and left. During that time, Changyang, who did not ask about the saint artifact at all. Perhaps these things were no longer enough to pique his interest. Afterward, Jianqin paid a visit to his first aunt, Linglong, and second aunt, Yufengyan. After bidding farewell to them, he left Changyang Prefecture. An hour later, Jianqin arrived at a large inn in the center of Lore City. Although the inn had only been in business for a few years, it was the largest and most luxurious inn in the city. At the same time, it was the safest inn in the city, let alone Lore City. Even all the large clans and organizations in the kingdom of Jessen did not dare to cause trouble in the inn. This was because everyone knew that the owner of the inn had an extremely deep relationship with the number 1 clan in the kingdom of Jessen, the Changyang Prefecture. Moreover, she had an extraordinary relationship with the imperial protector of the kingdom of Jessen, Changyang Shoten, the 4th young master of the Changyang Prefecture. Offending the owner of the inn was no different from offending the 4th young master of the Changyang Prefecture, Changyang Shoten. As a result, the inn's reputation had spread across the entire kingdom of Jessen, even though it had only been in business for a few years. Even some foreign mercenaries and merchants could only obediently put away their unruly natures in the inn. They dared not to act arrogantly at all. Jianchen found the owner and Ken, whom he had not seen in a long time, in the inn. After chatting with the two of them for a while, he left. After leaving the inn, Jianchen went straight to the outskirts of the city. A voice immediately rang out in his ears. "Have you taken care of everything at home?" "I've taken care of everything, but I still need to make a trip to the Flame Mercenaries." Jianchen's voice was rather gloomy. Chapter 798. At this very moment, the most trustworthy people around Jianchen, including the ancestor of the Bai family, Bai Hai, Yu, Bai Lian, Huangwan, Mingdong, and Dugafeng, were gathered together in the discussion hall of the Flame Mercenaries. They were all discussing something with serious expressions. The entire discussion hall was enveloped by a transparent barrier, so it seemed extremely cautious. The ancient divine beast winged tiger that the ancient clans are searching for is far too similar to the winged tiger by Jianchen's side. It's also a white cub with a pair of snow-white wings on its back. Do you think the ancient divine beast winged tiger is Xiao Bai or not? Mingdong was stern. He obviously understood that if the Xiao by Jianchen's side was the winged tiger, then the situation would be troublesome. I also feel like Little White is extremely similar to the winged shooting tiger that the ancient Tianmu clan spoke of. Is the Little White by my brother's side really that ancient divine beast? Bai Lian furrowed her brows. Her face was filled with worry. She knew that if Xiao Bai really was the winged tiger, the ancient Tianmu clan would definitely take it away. If Jianchen did not follow them, they would probably come into conflict with the ancient clan. If that's really the case, then it'll be troublesome. According to the news I've just received, basically the entire world is searching for the winged tiger. I hope nothing happens to Jianchen. The one who spoke was Yu, who was wearing a pink dress. Her face was covered in light makeup, which made her already devastatingly beautiful appearance even more enchanting. In addition, there was a faint trace of worry between her eyebrows, which gave her a delicate and pitiful charm, causing others to feel pity for her. I wonder where Jianchen is right now. I hope he can return safely, Huang Luan softly said. Her face was filled with worry as well. All right, let's stop talking about it. This matter is no small matter, so let's not discuss it in private. Although there's a barrier here, I'm afraid that people stronger than me will be able to penetrate the barrier and hear a conversation. We'll talk about it after my great-grandson returns, said the ancestor of the Bai family. The Bai family ancestor spoke. Even though his expression was solemn, there was an irresistible authority in his voice. Everyone immediately stopped their discussion with Bai Hai's words. Ignoring Bai Hai's strength, just his identity as Jianchen's great-grandfather was enough to make them afraid of offending him. The few people present did not dare to disobey Bai Hai's words. Right at this moment, Bai Hai's expression changed abruptly, and he suddenly stood up from his chair. He revealed a trace of pleasant surprise as he said, "My great-grandson has returned." What? Jianchen has returned? Mingdong's group was surprised, but they immediately became overjoyed. Bai Hai withdrew the barrier around the hall. At this moment, the door to the discussion hall slowly opened. Jianchen in blue robes and Tianjian in white slowly made their way in. "Jianchen, you finally returned." "Uncle Tian, why have you come as well?" Mingdong immediately called out in surprise when he saw the two of them. "Jianchen, you finally returned." Bai Lian, Yu, and Huangwan were overjoyed that Jianchen had returned safely. They all called out softly, and their voices were filled with joy. When Bai Hai saw Jianchen, he was about to speak when he noticed Tianjian from the corner of his eye. His face immediately changed, and he hurried over. He clasped his hands at Tianjian politely. Junior Bai Hai greets the Grand Elder. "There's no need to be so courteous." Tianjian smiled. He then looked at Mingdong, and his gaze immediately became benevolent. He said, "Child, you've already become a Heaven Saint Master. Very good. Your talent is very high. I hope you can work even harder in the future. You'll definitely have some accomplishments in the future. Ming Dong snickered and quickly arrived before Tian Jian. He said, Uncle Tian, let's not talk about this for now. We have more important matters to discuss with Jianqin. Ming Dong paused before continuing. We've received a message from the ancient Tianmu clan, telling us to put down everything and do our best to find the winged tiger. Jianqin, the winged tiger the Tianmu clan is looking for, is very similar to Xiaobai. Do you think they're looking for Xiaobai? Oh, right, where's Xiaobai? Why isn't he with you? Xiaobai is currently in an extremely hidden place. As for the winged tiger they're looking for, it is indeed Xiaobai. Jianqin did not hide it. There was no point in hiding the identity of the white tiger now. What? Is Xiaobai really the winged tiger? The Tianmu clan is looking for the winged tiger god. Could it be that they want to tame the ancient divine beast to become their clan's divine beast? You said with a face full of shock. Her expression turned serious. No, the ones looking for the winged tiger are not the Tianmu clan, but the 10 protector clans. Jianqin continued to explain when he saw the confusion on everyone's faces. The 10 protector clans are the 10 most powerful clans on the continent. They completely surpass the ancient clans. Even the ancient clans have to listen to the orders of the protector clans. Oh no, the protector clans are actually so powerful. Brother, what do you plan on doing? Bai Lian became even more worried. I'm leaving the Tianyuan continent. I've come back this time to bid farewell to everyone, Jianqin said with a heavy voice. He did not know when he would return this time, nor did he know when he would reunite with everyone after parting ways with them this time. Jianqin spent an entire afternoon with the Flame mercenaries. He handed over all the matters that needed to be dealt with. He left the development of the Flame mercenaries to Bai Lian and Yu Yu. The 2 saint rulers, Bai Hai and Jeditai, remained in charge of the Flame mercenaries, ensuring their safety. Jianqin, I won't be taking care of the matters of the Flame mercenaries anymore. I'll immediately find a quiet place to cultivate after you leave. Mingdong suddenly stood up as determination filled his eyes. The fact that Jianqin had been forced to leave the Tianyuan continent had an extremely great impact on Mingdong. At the same time, it had roused his determination to become stronger. This was because he knew that even though he had become a Heaven Saint Master, he was still unable to help Jianqin at all. All he could do was watch as his brother, who had once fought alongside him, was forced to leave his homeland under great pressure while he was unable to do anything. This made Mingdong feel extremely miserable. Strength. Strength. Only great strength had the right to survive in this world. Jianqin took out over 20 Class 6 monster cores from his space ring and passed them to Mingdong. He said, Mingdong, you can't be impatient when it comes to cultivation. The energy within the monster cores contains a berserk factor. If you can't control it well, it'll definitely leave behind unerasable problems in the future. I'll leave these Class 6 monster cores with you. I hope you can use them carefully and not be in too much of a hurry. Don't worry, brother. I'm not stupid. I know what to do, Mingdong swore solemnly. Jianqin looked at Huang Wan, and his expression immediately became rather complicated. He took out a large pile of Class 5 monster cores from his space ring and said, Luan, your talent is very great. You're a rare genius on the Tianyuan continent, reaching the 3rd cycle of Earth Saint Master without the help of any heavenly resources or monster cores. I'm not leaving these monster cores for you to use to cultivate, but for emergencies. Huang Wan's eyes were filled with tears as she looked at Jianqin with reluctance. She gently said, Jianqin, when will you come back? Jianqin gently sighed. I don't know when I'll come back either. Huang Wan could no longer hold back her tears. She understood that she would probably have to part with Jianqin for a very long time this time. Jianqin sighed once more before arriving beside Yu. He said, You don't work too hard for the Flame mercenaries. If it's suitable, just leave the matters of the mercenaries to your subordinates. After I leave, you have to work hard on cultivating. Only then will you have a longer lifespan. I hope you'll have become a Heaven Saint Master by the time I return." Yu Yu's tears gushed out like a fountain. She gently bit her lip as she sobbed from time to time. She sobbed, "Jianqin, I'll definitely work hard on cultivating in the future. I'll always wait for your return." Jianqin looked at Bai Lian, and a sliver of tenderness appeared in his eyes. He said, "Lian, you have to work hard on cultivating as well. Brother, you have to promise me that you'll come back safely," Bai Lian sobbed. She was already choking with sobs. "My father's gone, my mother's gone, and even my aunt's gone. Brother, I don't want to lose you as well." Bai Lian threw herself into Jianqin's arms as she sobbed. She was heartbroken. "Lian, I promise you that I'll come back safely." After a farewell that felt like a life-and-death separation, Jianqin and Tianjin finally left the Flame Mercenaries. "Senior, I want to go to the Qin Empire and bring back my parents' bodies," Jianqin said. Tianjin nodded. He directly ripped open space and brought Jianqin to the air above the Qin Empire. Afterwards, Jianqin directly entered the imperial palace of the Qin Empire and made his way to the Qin Heavenly Hall. At this moment, tremendous presences appeared in the distance. The 4 imperial protector of the Qin Empire hurried over from the 4 halls at the same time, blocking Jianqin's path. Jianqin stared at the 4 of them calmly without any expression. He clasped his hands at them and said, "Jianqin greets the 4 seniors." The 4 imperial protector of the Qin Empire looked at Jianqin with extremely mixed emotions. Qin Yunlong gently sighed. "Jianqin, you still came back in the end." "You already know." Jianqin's expression did not change at all. He had already expected this, as Ma Teng, Situ, and the others had already revealed his real name back in the City of God. "That's right. We already know. We've heard about Yang Yutian in the City of God," Qin Yunlong said with mixed emotions. Jianqin said after a moment of silence, "I want to take away my parents' bodies right now. Are you trying to stop me?" Chapter 799. Jianqin frowned slightly when he heard Qin Yunlong's last sentence. The light in his eyes flickered, and he asked calmly, "Is the ancestor of the Kara clan trying to stop me from leaving and then capture me and hand me over to the protector clans in exchange for a great merit?" Qin Yunlong gently sighed. "Jianqin, we never thought that you would cause such a great disturbance. Not only did you raise the winged tiger, but you even took away the treasure of the Radiant Saint Master Union. Our Qin Empire may be one of the 8 great kingdoms, but this matter has completely exceeded the scope of our Qin Empire's jurisdiction. The 4 of us have no idea why the ancestor of the Kara clan has suddenly come. Jianqin, the ancestor wants to see you. Please come with us to the Qin Heaven Hall. Lead the way. I hope the Kara clan doesn't do anything to anger me, or I'll have to forget about the assistance Lady Kara Libby provided me in the artifact space," Jianqin said emotionlessly. He was composed and composed. The arrival of the ancestor of the Kara clan did not make Jianqin feel any fear because the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Tianjin, was also in the Qin Empire. If the ancestor of the Kara clan wanted to move against him, he believed that Tianjin would definitely intervene. Jianqin followed the 4 imperial protector of the Qin Empire to a majestic Qin Heaven Hall. Jianqin finally saw the ancestor of the Kara clan in the spacious hall of the Qin Heaven Hall. The ancestor of the Kara clan seemed to be a man in his 30s. He was gentle and refined, just like a scholar. Every single movement he made was filled with the noble bearing of nobility. The man's skin was white and tender, and he was handsome. His facial features were perfect, and his pitch-black eyes were extremely deep. They seemed to contain the universe within them, allowing him to control the world. Even though he was gradually approaching middle age, he was still a handsome man who could make countless girls fall in love with him. "Greetings, Senior. The Imperial Protector of the Qin Empire, Jianqin, has arrived," The 4 imperial protectors of the Qin Empire clasped their hands at the man in unison. Their faces were filled with respect. The man drank a mouthful of tea elegantly before looking at Jianchen. He said, "You're Yang Yutian? You're also the previous king of mercenaries of Mercenary City, the imperial protector of the Qin Empire, Jianchen?" "Senior is correct. I am Jianchen. Greetings." Jianchen clasped his hands at the middle-aged man and spoke indifferently. His eyes were open and his face was composed. He showed no fear at all. The ancestor of the Kara clan stood up and circled around Jianchen with interest. He constantly studied Jianchen, as if he wanted to see through Jianchen from head to toe. "Not bad, not bad. Jianchen, I've already heard about you from the 4 of them when I came here. In just a few years, you've gone from a puny Earth Saint Master to a hermit Saint Ruler. At the same time, you're a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master and have grasped the 3 great techniques of the Radiant Saint Master Union. Your talent is truly unprecedented. Even I became tongue-tied after learning about you. This is just too unbelievable." The ancestor of the Kara clan sighed in amazement. Jianchen's talent had indeed stunned him. "Thank you for your praise, Senior. You must not have come all the way from the distant empire of the Holy Emperor just to say something like this to me." Jianchen remained calm. He did not show any arrogance or complacency at all. The ancestor of the Kara clan nodded in satisfaction once again when he saw how composed Jianchen was. He circled around Jianchen and said, "Jianchen, are you really only 24 years old?" "Why do you say that, Senior?" Jianchen asked. The ancestor of the Kara clan smiled indifferently. "You've achieved so much at the age of 24, and you're able to maintain your composure. That's just far too rare. You're the most outstanding prodigy I've seen in so many years." "All right, let's not talk about that. Jianchen, do you know why I've come this time?" The ancestor of the Kara clan changed his tone, and he became stern. He stared at Jianchen in interest. "If I've guessed correctly, there are only 2 reasons why Senior has come. The first is to find the winged tiger for the protector clans, and the second is to find the saint artifact of the Radiant Saint Master Union," Jianchen replied. "That's right. I have indeed come for these 2 matters. Jianchen, do you know what the existence of the winged tiger means to our Tianyuan continent? Do you know what kind of threat our Tianyuan continent will face? It will be a disaster. If you protect the winged tiger like this and help it grow, it's extremely likely that you'll bring a disaster to the Tianyuan continent in the future," the ancestor of the Kara clan said extremely sternly. Jianchen firmly shook his head. "Senior, your conclusion is a little too arbitrary. As long as the Tianyuan continent doesn't do anything to harm the winged tiger, I can guarantee that the winged tiger won't do anything to harm the Tianyuan continent once it matures." The ancestor of the Kara clan stared at Jianchen closely. After staring at him for a while, he gently sighed in the end. "I hope that's the case as well. However, the matter of the winged tiger will naturally be handled by the protector clans. I have no right to interfere. I've come this time to ask about the winged tiger. My main objective is the saint artifact of the Radiant Saint Master Union. Jianchen, the saint artifact, is just far too important to the Radiant Saint Master Union. It cannot be lost because once the Union loses the saint artifact, it'll be impossible for a new Class 7 Radiant Saint Master to appear. At the same time, the Union will lose its status and might even collapse. We all know that the saint artifact will follow you, so I hope you can return it to the Radiant Saint Master Union of your own accord," the ancestor of the Kara clan said sincerely. Jianchen became troubled. He said, "Senior, it is indeed difficult for me to return the saint artifact right now, but I will definitely compensate the Union for their losses in the future." The ancestor's face sank slightly. He said, "Jianchen, the saint artifact, is just far too important to the Union. Do you really not plan on returning it?" "Senior, The Saint Artifact possesses the artifact spirit. It has already accepted me as its master. How do you want me to return it? And I've already said that I will definitely compensate for the Union's losses in the future, Jianqin replied. The light in the eyes of the ancestor of the Kara clan flickered. After a moment of hesitation, he gently sighed in the end. All right, Jianqin, since you insist, I won't force you. I just hope that if a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master of the Kara clan wants to break through to Class 7 in the future, you can assist them with the Saint Artifact. As for Kara Livy, she has already reached the peak of Class 6. Without the Saint Artifact, she will never be able to break through. Senior, don't worry. I owe Miss Kara Livy a favor. If your Kara clan needs the origin energy of the Saint Artifact in the future, I will definitely assist you, Jianqin said. Then I don't have to worry. Jianqin, I won't waste any more of your time. Go and retrieve your parents' corpses. The ancestor of the Kara clan waved his hand to let Jianqin leave. He did not make things difficult for Jianqin. Farewell, Senior. Jianqin clasped his hands at the ancestor of the Kara clan before leaving the Qin Tian Hall. He made his way to where his parents' corpses were. After Jianqin left, the ancestor of the Kara clan let out a long sigh. He muttered to himself, My Kara clan can't afford to offend a descendant of Chanyang Prefecture. Although I don't know if the Chanyang Prefecture in Lore City has any connection with that Chanyang Prefecture, it's best not to offend them. If it really is that Chanyang Prefecture, then our Kara clan will be in huge trouble. And Jianqin's presence has suddenly appeared in the Qin Empire. He must have the Holy Emperor by his side. I can't even sense his presence. It looks like his strength far surpasses mine. He did not encounter any obstructions when retrieving his parents' corpses. After temporarily storing them in his space ring, Jianqin left the Qin Empire. At this moment, Jianqin was flying through the air, hurrying towards the outside of the imperial city. That was where he and Tianjian had agreed to meet. At this moment, a streak of golden light shot over from the distance with lightning-like speed. When the streak of golden light sensed Jianqin, it immediately changed direction and flew straight towards Jianqin. Jianqin stopped. He stared at the streak of golden light with shining eyes. A sliver of surprise appeared in his eyes, and he cried out, Newbies! Why has he appeared here? The streak of golden light stopped before Jianqin, revealing the golden-robed Newbies. Newbies' face was pale and bloodless. Blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. He was heavily injured and in an extremely horrible shape. Newbies also showed a sliver of surprise when he saw Jianqin, but it was immediately replaced by worry. He hurriedly said, Jianqin, let's go. There's an old snake chasing after us. With that, Newbies grabbed Jianqin's arm and flew towards Mercenary City. We need to get to Mercenary City as quickly as possible. Only by alarming the experts of Mercenary City will we be able to escape safely. Newbie's voice was filled with urgency, as if he was facing great danger. Newbies, what happened? Jianqin asked curiously. This was the first time he had seen Newbies in such a horrible state after knowing Newbies for so long. Chapter 800. Haha, you little snake. Do you think you can escape? Hand over your essence. Obediently. A heavy voice rang out as soon as Newbies finished speaking. A burly, middle-aged man in golden clothes appeared out of nowhere, blocking the path of Jianqin and Newbies. Newbies' face became extremely ugly. He angrily bellowed, We're very close to Mercenary City. If you try anything, you'll definitely alarm the supreme experts of Mercenary City. At that time, you won't be able to escape even if you're a Class 8 magical beast. Hee, you're pretty smart, little snake. You know that there's barely anyone who's my opponent on the Tianyuan continent, which is why you've led me to Mercenary City. However, you've used a secret technique to escape without any regard for the consequences. You're already close to death. I only need to move a finger to kill you. I won't alarm the supreme experts of Mercenary City at all. The middle-aged man sneered and directly extended his hand toward Newbies. Wherever his palm passed, a powerful energy tore through the void. This palm seemed ordinary, but it contained a great power that could cause mountains to collapse and the earth to crack. Jianqin and Nubes were immobilized by the frozen space. They could only watch as the hand rapidly approached them. The two of them were unable to forcefully break free from the space sealed by a Class 8 magical beast. Magical beasts from the Beast God continent have actually infiltrated my Tianyuan continent. How bold of you! At this moment, a cold and dignified voice rang out from nowhere. The white-robed Tianjian suddenly appeared, blocking Jianqin and Nubes. Tianjian directly extended a finger, and the space before him shook. A finger-sized hole appeared in the hand that reached toward Jianqin and Nubes. Not only did Tianjian's finger pierce through the hand of the Class 8 magic beast, but the remaining force also pierced through the hand and into the chest of the Class 8 magic beast, creating a finger-sized hole in his chest. The powerful body of the Class 8 magical beast was as fragile as tofu before Tianjian's casual gesture. The Class 8 magical beast that had infiltrated the Tianyuan continent grunted as he stared at Tianjian in shock. When he recognized Tianjian's identity, he immediately paled in fright and became frightened out of his wits. He did not even think about fighting back. Without any hesitation, he immediately vanished, having used a secret technique to flee. Tianjian said emotionlessly, "9 godly arts, world seal!" The space in a radius of 10,000 kilometers froze at that moment. It was as if a mysterious and powerful energy had sealed the space there. Not only did it seal space, but time as well. At that moment, the air seemed to freeze and time seemed to stop. Everything in the world seemed to come to a standstill. The Class 8 magical beast's figure that had originally vanished reappeared 100 kilometers away. At this moment, he was trapped in the air, unable to move at all. His face was filled with fear. Tianjian took a step forward and crossed 100 kilometers in a single instance, directly appearing before the Class 8 magical beast. He gently pressed his hand against the head of the Class 8 magical beast. The Class 8 demonic beast trembled, and the light in its eyes rapidly faded away. It became hollow and lifeless. Its soul had been dispersed by Tianjian's gentle palm strike, obliterating it completely. It did not even have the ability to resist. With the death of the Class 8 magical beast, the sealed space in the surroundings returned to normal. Tianjian arrived beside Jianqin in a flash with the corpse of the Class 8 magical beast. He said, "I never thought that a Class 8 magical beast would infiltrate my Tianyuan continent. Fortunately, I ran into him, or there wouldn't be a lot of people on the Tianyuan continent who could stop him with his supreme battle prowess as a beast of antiquity." Jianqin and Nubes became stunned as they stared at the middle-aged man in Tianjian's hand. They could not be any more shocked. A Class 8 magical beast that was a golden-striped silver snake had been slain by Tianjian so effortlessly. The strength that Tianjian had displayed had deeply shocked the two of them. The two of them had never thought that killing a Class 8 magical beast that was on par with the Holy Emperor would be so easy. Killing a Class 8 magical beast was nothing out of the ordinary for Tianjian. It did not cause any ripples in his emotions at all. Everything seemed to be very normal. Tianjian arrived before Jianqin and looked at Jianqin calmly. He asked, "Is it all done?" Jianqin sucked in a deep breath. He glanced at the Class 8 magical beast in Tianjian's hand with some fright. He gulped with difficulty and said, "Senior, this junior's matter has been dealt with. We can set off now. We can't waste any more time. Come with me right now." Tianjian ripped open space with a wave of his hand and used the Holy Emperor's ability to create a space gate. "Jianqin, where are you going?" "Oh, right. I sensed the presence of many experts from the Beast God continent a few days ago. Have the magical beasts from the Beast God continent come to the Tianyuan continent?" Nubes also returned to his senses and asked from one side. During this time, he had been hunted down by the old snake. so he had left the Flame Mercenaries before he could contact anyone. He had been running for his life the entire time, so he had no idea that the news of the winged tiger had been leaked. Jianchen nodded. The experts from the Beast God continent have come for the winged tiger. Now that the news of the winged tiger has been leaked, the 10 protector clans are searching for me across the entire continent. It's no longer safe for me to stay here, so I need to seek refuge with the sea race. The sea race? Nubis was slightly surprised. After a moment of hesitation, he said, I don't know if there are any other experts of the same race on the Beast God continent. Since the Beast God continent has already invaded the Tianyuan continent, it's no longer safe for me to stay here. It'll be troublesome if I'm discovered by the experts of the same race. As a magical beast, those human experts would obviously be eager to see us kill each other, so they won't save me. Jianchen, why don't I go with you to seek refuge with the sea race? Golden-striped silver snakes were beasts of antiquity, but they were a cruel race. If the members of the same race wanted to rapidly increase their strength or evolve, they needed to kill each other and absorb the essence of their clansmen. Sure, Senior Tianjian, why don't you send Nubis over as well? Jianchen pleaded. Yeah, your chances of survival will be greater with the 2 of you together. However, there's one thing I need to remind you. The situation of the sea race is unknown, and Poseidon is still alive. They might be even more powerful than our Tianyuan continent, so you need to be careful once you get there, Tianjian warned. Don't worry, Senior. We will definitely be careful, Jianchen replied. Tianjian then looked at Nubis and tossed the corpse of the Class 8 magical beast he had just killed to him. He said, This golden-striped silver snake has already reached the 4th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. As a member of the same race, you can absorb its essence to strengthen yourself. It should be able to increase your strength by quite a lot. Take it. Nubis immediately became extremely overjoyed. He accepted the corpse from Tianjian in a hurry. He was so overjoyed that his voice began to tremble. Thank you, Senior. I will never forget Senior's grace of rebirth. I will definitely repay Senior if I have the chance in the future. In Nubis' eyes, the corpse of the Class 8 magical beast that Tianjian had given him was basically a great fortune. Moreover, the Class 8 magical beast had already reached the 4th heavenly layer. If he absorbed the essence, his strength would definitely skyrocket or even evolve. Tianjian did not pay any attention to Nubis. He said, The territory of the sea race is in the direction of the Northern Sea. This place is extremely far from the Northern Sea, tens of millions of kilometers away. The ripples from creating a space gate so far away will definitely be sensed by other experts. Let's return to Mercenary City first and use the space gate there to leave without anyone noticing. As he said that, Tianjian waved his hand and disappeared into the space gate with Jianchen and Nubis. After Tianjian left, a figure silently appeared in the air. He stared at where the space gate had closed up sternly and murmured, There really is a holy emperor beside Jianchen. That person's strength is just too terrifying, killing a Class 8 magical beast at the 4th heavenly layer without any effort at all. He's definitely not someone I can compare to, and the ability that sealed up space earlier must be a Saint Tier battle skill. It seems extremely similar to the 9 godly arts from the legends of Mercenary City. It said that the 9 godly arts were left behind by Mo Tianyan in the past. It has a total of 9 abilities, and one of them, Heaven and Earth Seal, seems to be able to achieve such an effect. Is the person beside Jianchen an expert of Mercenary City? He was the ancestor of the Kara clan. When Jianchen and Nubis reappeared, they had already arrived at the Hovering Divine Hall where they had first met Tianjian during the tournament of mercenaries. Jianchen hesitated for a while as he stood in the Hovering Divine Hall before clasping his hands at Tianjian. Senior, I have a presumptuous request. I hope that you can place the remains of my parents in Mercenary City. I don't know if I'll be able to return after this. If I can't, I hope that Senior can think of a way to revive my parents. Tianjian hesitated for a while, but he still nodded in the end. Jianchen did not choose to take his parents' remains with him to the sea race. The journey to the sea race this time was filled with unknown dangers, and it was difficult to predict whether he would survive. If he died, his parents would never be able to be revived. As a result, he chose to place his parents' remains in Mercenary City in the end. Big brother, you've finally come to visit Xiaoling. Xiaoling misses you so much. At this moment, a clear and rather innocent voice rang out in Jianchen's ears. Afterwards, Xiaoling's petite figure appeared out of nowhere in the divine hall. Big brother, what's wrong? Have you encountered something unhappy? Xiaoling can feel that you're very sad. But it's fine. Big brother, you have Xiaoling with you. You'll be happy as long as you see Xiaoling, right? Big brother, smile. Xiaoling arrived beside Jianchen and pulled on Jianchen's arm intimately, swinging it back and forth. Xiaoling's appearance finally eased Jianchen's gloomy mood from being away from home. He looked at Xiaoling gently as he faintly smiled. Xiaoling, Big brother is about to go on a long journey. I don't know when I'll be able to return this time, so I probably won't be able to see you for a very long time in the future. Chapter 801. Xiaoling immediately panicked when she heard that Jianchen was about to leave. She said with a sobbing voice, Big brother, where are you going? Are you going to find Master? Big brother, please don't leave Xiaoling behind. Xiaoling's face suddenly changed as soon as she said that. She carefully sniffed Jianchen, and her eyes became filled with doubt. That's strange. Big brother, why has Master sent on you become much thinner? Xiaoling understands now. It must be because you've been separated from Master for too long, which has caused Master's scent to disperse, right? Xiaoling is so smart. Suddenly, Xiaoling gently interjected. She carefully studied Jianchen, and disbelief filled her eyes. She then pouted. Big brother, you're so wasteful. You've absorbed so much energy from Xiaoling. So why is there so little left so quickly? Xiaoling spent a very, very long time to absorb all that energy. Big brother, you don't cherish it at all. Jianchen bitterly smiled. Back when he faced the saint rulers of the 8 great clans in the City of God, he had used up far too much chaotic force with that shocking strike. It had reduced his thumb-sized chaotic force to the size of a bean. He had used up more than half of his chaotic force. Xiaoling, Big brother doesn't want to be so wasteful either. It's just that I had no other choice when I was in danger, Jianchen apologetically said. After all, it was all thanks to Xiaoling that he was able to refine the chaotic force in such a short amount of time. Newbies and Tianjian both stopped and looked at Jianchen. They wanted to see who Jianchen was talking to. However, when they looked over, all they saw was Jianchen smiling at the empty space as he muttered to himself like a maniac. Forget about Sky Sword. He knew that Jianchen was definitely communicating with the elusive barrier spirit. The spirit formation spirit was extremely peculiar. If she didn't want others to see her, no one would be able to discover her existence. Even with the power of the Heaven Sword, he was unable to detect the existence of the spirit formation spirit. However, newbies didn't know about these things. He looked at Jianchen with a very strange expression. It was definitely the first time this expression appeared on his face. It's okay, as long as Big Brother is safe. Big Brother, in the future, Xiaoling must beat up all those bad guys who bully Big Brother. However, Xiaoling can no longer help Big Brother increase his strength. The seal has loosened, so Xiaoling must use all her strength to maintain the seal. Jianchen smiled. Xiaoling, Big Brother doesn't need you to increase his strength right now. Big Brother will think of a way himself. With that, a hand waved in front of Jianchen. Newbie stared at Jianchen with a strange expression. He asked in worry, Jianchen, are you all right? Why are you talking about Xiaoling and Big Brother? Who are you talking to? Why are you muttering to yourself? Newbies began to worry when he saw how Jianchen was behaving. He thought, oh no, Jianxin has been forced to leave the Tianyuan continent by the Protector clan. The pressure on him must be extremely great. Don't tell me he's gone crazy from the pressure and his mind has become abnormal. Jianxin glared at newbies before looking at Xiaoling. Xiaoling, big brother is leaving. I'll definitely come and see you when I come back. Xiaoling looked at Jianxin with teary eyes. Big brother, you promised Xiaoling. You have to come back and see Xiaoling. You can't just leave and never come back like master. Xiaoling can only sense master's scent from big brother. In Xiaoling's heart, big brother is the person closest to her other than master. Oh no, oh no. We haven't even left the Tianyuan continent. Yet Jianxin has already become like this. Once we leave, Jianxin's condition will definitely worsen. What do we do? Newbies had already confirmed his guess. Jianxin had already lost his mind and was actually muttering to the air. His condition was extremely severe, so he could not help but begin to worry for Jianxin. After bidding farewell to Xiaoling, Jianxin made his way toward Tianjian. He said, "Senior, let's go." Tianjian nodded slightly and took Jianxin into the depths of the divine hall. "Jianxin, are you all right? Have you returned to normal?" Newbies arrived before Jianxin and turned around. He stared at Jianxin in both surprise and doubt, as if he wanted to see if Jianxin had really lost his mind. Jianxin could not help but smile when he saw Newbies' stern expression. He said, "Nothing's wrong with me." "Then who were you talking to when you were talking to yourself?" Newbies asked with a strange expression. "That was the barrier spirit of Mercenary City. You couldn't see her." Jianxin did not hide this because he also knew that the existence of the barrier spirit was not a secret. The barrier spirit. So that's why. Newbies came to a realization. Jianxin and Newbies followed Tianjian into a plaza in the center of the divine hall. There was a platform at the edge of the plaza. On the platform, a space gate that was 3 meters wide and flickered with multicolored light had already been opened. Through the space gate, they could clearly see a vast, blue ocean that connected the sky and the earth. After passing through the space gate, travel several tens of thousand kilometers, and you will find an island. Go find the island master of the island and learn the details of the sea race from her. She spends most of her time overseas and is very close to the ocean, so she should know quite a few details about the sea race. Tianjian stood in front of the space gate and looked at Jianxin. "Yes, Senior." Jianxin clasped his hands at Tianjian gratefully before leaving through the space gate with Newbies. With just a single step, they left the Tianyuan continent and arrived above the Azure Ocean. Jianxin and Newbies hovered several hundred meters in the air as they gazed at the ocean in the distance. The space gate behind them had already vanished. Is this the ocean? Who knows how far away we are from the Tianyuan continent now? We can't even see the edge of the continent, Jianxin murmured to himself as he hovered above the ocean. His expression was extremely mixed. Newbies and Jianxin's expressions were the complete opposite. Newbies excitedly stared at the ocean in the surroundings as he laughed aloud. "Aye! The great Newbies have finally left the Tianyuan continent and witnessed the appearance of the ocean. Sea race, the great Newbies have come. Let me, the great Newbies, experience the mysterious sea race that even my golden-striped silver snake seniors have failed to fully explore. I, the great Newbies, am fated to add a glorious stroke to my legacy as a golden-striped silver snake in the future." With that, Newbies pulled Jianxin away eagerly. He said, "Jianxin, let's go find the island master that the Grand Elder of Mercenary City mentioned." Just as Jianxin left the Tianyuan continent, Mingdong had already bid farewell to everyone in the distant territory of the Flame Mercenaries. He entered seclusion in a mountain range alone. "Jianxin, you've always been silently and selflessly helping me in the past few years, while my help to you has been insignificant. From today onwards, I'll spend all my time on cultivation until you return." Jianxin, Mingdong's voice was filled with emotion. Mingdong sat in a pitch-black cave. The light in his eyes became unprecedentedly determined. He then took out several Class 6 monster cores and a jade-white skeleton from his space ring and murmured, "Genshin, the Class 6 monster cores you left behind are the energy I need to reach the 6th cycle of Heaven Saint Master, while the Saint Ruler skeleton I obtained in the trial space of Mercenary City is my hope of reaching Saint Ruler. Once you return, I'll definitely reach Saint Ruler, or even the Holy Emperor." At this moment, the President and several elders of the Union gathered together in the central hall of the Union. All of them sat in the surroundings with bitter expressions. "Have you found Yang Yutian's whereabouts?" After a long moment of silence, an old voice finally broke the silence. It was the President of the Radiant Saint Master Union who spoke with a sunken face. Genshin had taken away the Saint artifact of the Union, which was equivalent to destroying the Union. The Saint artifact was just far too important to the Union. They could not afford to lose it. I've already mobilized all the power of the Union. I've also asked the Kara clan and Kaza clan to help me find Yang Yutian's whereabouts. We'll probably receive news soon, a white-robed elder with a violet badge on his chest said with a deep voice. The loss of the Saint artifact had caused all the elders present to feel terrible. At this moment, a black-clothed, middle-aged man walked in from outside. His arrival immediately attracted the attention of all the elders present. "Have you found Yang Yutian's whereabouts?" The President immediately asked. He stared at the black-clothed, middle-aged man closely. His face clearly displayed his nervousness. "President, we haven't found Yang Yutian, but we've found information about Yang Yutian's identity," said the black-clothed, middle-aged man. "Hurry up and tell me." The President's expression was somewhat anxious. No one was more anxious about the Saint artifact than him. Not only was it the treasure of the Union, but it was also his only hope of becoming a Class 8 Radiant Saint Master. He did not have much time left. He could only live for a few years at most. If he could not break through by then, he would not be able to escape death. The President no longer considered the threat of the Tsar clan at all. Right now, the entire Tianyuan continent had been thrown into chaos by the matter of the winged tiger. The 10 protector clans had all been mobilized. At this moment, the Tsar clan definitely did not dare to start an internal conflict. Otherwise, the protector clans would have directly punished them before they could even do anything. Yang Yutian is Genshin, the person who obtained the title of Mercenary King in Mercenary City last time. He's also the 4th young master of a small clan in a small kingdom. His original name is Changyang Shoden, and he only broke through to Saint Ruler recently, the black-clothed, middle-aged man said emotionlessly. The President was overjoyed. He immediately stood up from his chair and said, "All right, it doesn't matter who Yang Yutian is. As long as we know where his home is, it's enough. Elders, please make your preparations. We will immediately set off for that small kingdom. We must find the Saint artifact." Chapter 802. Within the Yangji Zone of the 10 protector clans, the current sect master of the Yangji Zone sat at the head of the table in a majestic hall. Below him sat over a dozen old men. Every single one of them possessed the strength of a saint ruler. Although these people were not the most powerful in the Yangji Zone, they were the upper echelons of the Yangji Zone. The management of the entire Yangji Zone was carried out by these people. They were equivalent to housekeepers. We've already confirmed that Yang Yutian is Genshin. His family is located in Lore City of the Kingdom of Jessen. It's a small clan called Changyang Prefecture. His name in Changyang Prefecture is Changyang Shoten, Sect Master Yang Jizong said calmly as he looked around. What, Changyang Prefecture? Is it the Changyang Prefecture of the Protector clan? As soon as Sect Master Yang Jizong finished speaking, many people below immediately cried out in surprise. Sect Master Yang Jizong smiled faintly and said, "The Changyang Prefecture of the Protector clan has 3 branches. They are the Zhu, Yuan, and Qing branches. There is no Xiang branch. In my opinion, the Changyang Prefecture of Lore City only has the same name. He's not someone from the Changyang Prefecture of the Protector Clan. That's true. With how large the Tianyuan continent is, it's very normal to encounter clans with the same name. Sect Master's analysis is correct. The Changyang Prefecture of Lore City definitely has the same name as the Protector Clan. Sect Master Yang Jizong's words immediately gained the agreement of many people. At this moment, an old man stood up and clasped his hands. Sect Master, a few days ago, when our Yang Jizong opened the sealed space, a disciple from a branch of the sect suddenly returned. At the same time, he brought back a piece of news. One of the branches of our Yang Jizong had been destroyed by someone, and the person who destroyed it was Jianshin, who possessed the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger. A gleam of light flashed through Sect Master Yang Jizong's eyes. He immediately stood up from his throne and stared sharply at the old man who spoke. He said, "Elder Ling Yuanzi, is this true?" Elder Ling Yuanzi clasped his hands at Sect Master Yang Jizong and said firmly, "Sect Master, I have already sent people to investigate this matter. It's absolutely true." Sect Master Yang Jizong immediately laughed heartily and said, "The heavens are helping our Yang Jizong. The heavens are really helping our Yang Jizong." After obtaining the winged tiger, who would be the one to force the contract with the winged tiger has always been the biggest headache for our 10 guardian clans. Now, this Jianshin actually destroyed a branch of our Yang Jizong. In this way, our Yang Jizong can justifiably capture this Jianshin. As long as we capture Jianshin, it is equivalent to controlling the winged tiger. Even if this Jianshin was captured by the other guardian clans first, it is a fact that he destroyed a branch of our Yang Jizong. Our Yang Jizong can use this as a bargaining chip. As long as we work a little, we can obtain the opportunity to sign the contract with the winged tiger first. The light in Sect Master Yang Jizong's eyes grew brighter and brighter. He immediately walked out of the hall and said, "This matter cannot be delayed any longer. I will immediately inform the ancestors and see if there is a need to control Jianshin's family and relatives. Elders, prepare to set off at any time." At this moment, within the borders of the Jessin Kingdom, a dozen people were flying through the air. The 2 people at the front were a young girl of about 20 years of age and a slightly older man. The man was handsome, and the woman was beautiful. His body naturally exuded a noble aura. It was obvious that he had grown up in a large family. The 2 of them looked somewhat similar, as if they were a pair of brother and sister. Behind the man and woman, there were 12 middle-aged men in black. They were all expressionless and looked indifferent. There's actually a small family nearby that has the name of Changyang Prefecture. This is outrageous. How can the name of our Changyang Prefecture be taken by others so easily? We have to teach these people a lesson when we get there this time, the young girl said indignantly. She was extremely angry. The young man beside her smiled bitterly and said, "Sister, don't worry too much about this. The Tianyuan continent is so large. There are countless people with the same name. It's not like there aren't any clans with the same name as our Changyang Prefecture. We just need them to change their names when we get there this time. Don't go too far." The anger on the woman's face finally dissipated slightly when she heard the young man's words. After a moment of hesitation, she said, "Brother, you're right. All right, we just need them to change their names. We won't teach them a lesson. Also, sister, our main mission this time is to search for the winged tiger. Don't be too playful along the way. Look at you. Ever since you left the clan, all you've been doing is sightseeing. How can you take the mission seriously?" The young man said sincerely. His gaze toward the woman was filled with love as well as some helplessness. The woman's face immediately became bitter. She sorrowfully said, "I know, brother. Don't say anything else. I seem to be sightseeing along the way, but I'm actually looking for the winged tiger." The 2 of them chatted as they flew toward Lore City and Changyang Prefecture. Although they were only Heaven Saint Masters, They flew much faster than regular Heaven Saint Masters. They arrived at Lore City very quickly. Currently, the 500,000 Eastern Deity, Sword Legion, stationed outside Lore City had already disappeared. They had been taken back by the Qin Empire. Sister, below us is the mansion of Changyang Prefecture. Let's go down. The young man pointed at a rather large mansion in front of them. Looking at the majestic mansion of Changyang Prefecture, the woman frowned. A sliver of dissatisfaction immediately appeared in her eyes. With a soft snort, she descended into the mansion with the young man. Over a dozen Heaven Saint Masters descended from the sky with a tremendous presence. They directly landed in the mansion of Changyang Prefecture, alarming everyone in Changyang Prefecture. Immediately, a large group of guards surrounded them from all directions. Their eyes were filled with vigilance as they stared at the dozen or so uninvited guests. Their expressions were grave. How dare you trespass into Changyang Prefecture? Are you tired of living? Why don't you tell us who you are? A guard captain sternly shouted. Even though there were over a dozen Heaven Saint Masters, the guard captain showed no fear at all. This was because the fourth young master of Changyang Prefecture was a true saint ruler. You're the ones who are tired of living. You actually took the name of Changyang Prefecture without permission. How dare you disrespect me again? Do you believe that I won't cut out your tongue immediately? The young woman stood with her hands on her hips as she stared at the guard captain aggressively. She was extremely unruly. The guard captain's face sank. Just when he was about to speak, he suddenly noticed Chang Wuji walking over from the other side. He immediately became respectful and said, "Greetings to the manager." Chang Wuji walked out from the back with a stern expression. His sharp gaze constantly studied the Heaven Saint Masters who had suddenly arrived. However, when his gaze landed on the sun-like insignia on the chests of the black-clothed men, he immediately trembled. His expression became extremely mixed at that moment. The brother and sister, who seemed to be in charge, also noticed Chang Wuji's arrival. Their gazes immediately gathered on Chang Wuji. The young woman's rude voice rang out again. "Call out the person in charge of this place." Chang Wuji stared at the unruly young woman and the steady young man with mixed feelings. He asked, "What are your names?" Chang Wuji's voice actually trembled slightly, which was a rare sight. The young woman was emotionless as she glared at Chang Bo. She said, "You don't have the right to know my name. Call out the person in charge of this place immediately." "I don't have that much time." Before the young woman could finish speaking, she was stopped by the young man beside her. The young man helplessly stared at the young woman and bitterly smiled. "Sister, that's enough. Stop playing around. Who knows how many times you've played gentle breeze along the way? Haven't you had enough yet?" The young woman's rude expression immediately vanished. "Brother, can't you let me play a little longer? I've already heard that as long as you have the strength, you can bully people however you want on the Tianyuan continent. It's rare for me to come out, so can't you let me experience it a little longer? Sister, we're here for business. We're not here to play." The young man's face was filled with helplessness. He really could not do anything about his sister. "I know." The young woman unhappily turned around. She was very unhappy. The young man ignored the young woman. He looked at Chang Wuji and said, "Is your patriarch here?" "The patriarch passed away recently. He hasn't appointed a new patriarch yet. I'm in charge of everything in Changyang Prefecture for now," said Chang Bo. "All right, then I won't beat around the bush. I'll get straight to the point. You can't use the name Changyang Prefecture anymore. Change your clan's name," the young man said indifferently. When the young man's words fell into the ears of the surrounding guards, all of them were stunned. Soon after, they all looked at the young man as if they were looking at an idiot. How arrogant. "Kid, you're the first person in the history of Changyang Prefecture who dares to tell us to change our clan's name." An old, furious voice rang out. Several dozen senior members of the Changyang clan all walked over. They all glared at the young man who had spoken. The young girl frowned. She was about to speak when Uncle Chang's words caused the two of them to be stunned on the spot. "May I ask which of the 3 branches of Changyang Prefecture you belong to?" Changbo's voice trembled slightly. After being stunned for a while, the young woman's eyes widened. She looked at Changbo in disbelief and cried out, "No, no, impossible. You! How do you know about our Changyang Prefecture? Who are you? Are you also from Changyang Prefecture?" The young man's face was filled with surprise. They were a protector clan of Changyang Prefecture. They resided in another space and were sealed off from the outside world all year round. Very few people knew about their existence. However, the old man was only a Heaven Saint Master. Yet he knew about the 3 branches of Changyang Prefecture in a single sentence. This shocked the young man because these matters were already internal matters of Changyang Prefecture. Other than the other protector clans, very few people knew about them. Changbo gently sighed. A sliver of reminiscence appeared in his eyes. He said, "May I ask who the old man, Changyang Ziyun, is to you?" "Changyang Zu Yeun. That's great-grandmother Ye's name." "H, how do you know my great-grandmother Ye's name?" The young woman gently covered her mouth with her hand as she stared at Changbo with widened eyes. She was extremely shocked. Chapter 803. Why? Are you from Changyang Prefecture as well? The girl only returned to her senses after quite a while. She stared at Changbo in surprise. The young man was also surprised as he waited for Changbo's reply. Uncle Chang let out a long sigh towards the sky. Then he slowly closed his eyes. The memories that had been sealed away in his mind suddenly surged out like a tide, forming images that were continuously projected in his mind. 2 streams of tears uncontrollably rolled down from Changbo's tightly shut eyes. All the guards and older members of Changyang Prefecture stared at Changbo. Their faces were filled with confusion. There was no lack of smart people among them. Some of them had already understood something from the conversation between Changbo and the siblings, but no one, including the members of Changyang Prefecture, knew what the relationship between Changbo and the siblings was. Is there a second Changyang Prefecture on the Tianyuan continent, and there's some unknown connection between the 2 prefectures? At that moment, many people thought the same thing. The siblings from Changyang Prefecture said nothing. Their faces became mixed as a sliver of disbelief remained in their eyes. The siblings had already guessed that the Changyang Prefecture of Lore City was probably not a small clan with the same name. Instead, it really did have some connection with the protector clan of Changyang Prefecture that they did not know about. After guessing this, the way the siblings looked at the people of Changyang Prefecture immediately changed slightly. They had already given up on the idea of changing the name of the clan of Changyang Prefecture. After quite a while, Changbo finally opened his eyes slowly. He stared at the siblings with extremely mixed feelings and said, "My name is Chang Wuji. Go back and tell Changyang Zuyin that I'm an old man. She should know who I am." "Chang Wuji?" The siblings murmured softly. Their faces were filled with doubt because this name was not a surname from Changyang Prefecture. Changyang Prefecture was split into 3 branches, Zhu, Yuan, and Qing. As long as one was a person from Changyang Prefecture, the first 2 characters of their name would be Changyang without exception, while the 3rd character would be any one of the 3 surnames, representing which branch they belonged to. Only after these 3 characters was their true name. However, it was impossible for Chang Wuji to be a member of the Changyang clan from his name, as his surname was completely different from the Changyang clan. Even though they were extremely doubtful, the siblings did not ask any questions. The young man clasped his hands at Chang Wuji and bid farewell before leaving Changyang Prefecture with the girl. In the air, the siblings led 12 Heaven Saint Master guards into the distance. The girl looked at the young man and said, "Brother, who do you think that person is? His name doesn't seem like he's from Changyang Prefecture, But he actually knows the name of Great-Grandmother Yi. Does he know Great-Grandmother Yi? The young man frowned slightly. He was also puzzled. He said, Sister, let's stop guessing for now. Let's hurry back to the clan and tell Great-Grandmother Yi about this. The truth will naturally come out after that. As he said that, the young man took out a fist-sized piece of jade from his bosom. With a slight squeeze, the jade was immediately crushed to pieces. A wondrous energy radiated from the jade, quickly forming a multicolored space gate before them. The siblings and the 12 black-clothed guards directly stepped into the space gate and vanished. When the siblings reappeared, they had arrived in an unknown space. The space was extremely large, like a miniature world. There were mountains, rivers, and even many magical beasts. There was no lack of high-class magical beasts that were extremely rare on the Tianyuan continent. At the center of the space, a huge piece of land hovered in the air. It was filled with buildings and people, making it seem like a bustling city. There was a majestic palace at the center of the piece of land. At this moment, a middle-aged woman in a white dress sat before a window in the majestic palace. She stared outside in a daze as a sliver of deep sorrow appeared in the depths of her eyes. A middle-aged man in white robes slowly arrived behind the middle-aged woman. He gently placed his hands on her shoulders and rubbed them. He said softly, Yin, are you still thinking about Conger? The middle-aged woman gently nodded. She said in low spirits, Kong, or broke the rules of the clan back then and almost brought a disaster to our Chanyang prefecture. Great-grandfather sealed his talent, preventing him from reaching saint for the rest of his life. It's almost been 1,000 years since Kong was born. I wonder if Conger is still alive? Where is he? I really do want to see Kong. The middle-aged man gently sighed as a sliver of sorrow appeared in his eyes. The Kong, or the middle-aged woman, spoke of was their only son. He was the son they had when they were still saint rulers. At the same time, he was the greatest pain in their hearts. Several hundred years ago, their son had been expelled from Chanyang Prefecture because of what he had done. His talent had been sealed as well, preventing him from reaching saint for the rest of his life. The longest he could live was only 1,000 years. Even though the two of them possessed some status in Chanyang Prefecture, they were powerless to stop the matter because the trouble their son had caused back then was just far too severe. He had almost caused the space in Chanyang Prefecture to collapse. It was because of this matter that Chanyang Zuyin's strength remained at the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. If she could not resolve this issue, she would probably never be able to break through the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler and become a king. She would only be able to enjoy a lifespan of 3,000 years. In the past, the two of them had thought about leaving the Chanyang clan to search for their son, but they could not do anything about the fact that the space of the Chanyang clan was always sealed off. At the same time, it was impossible for the elders of the Chanyang clan to expend a great amount of energy just to open up the space for them to search for their son. Now, the sealed space in Chanyang Prefecture had finally been opened up with the invasion of the Beast God continent. However, their primary mission this time was to stop the invasion of the Beast God continent while searching for traces of the winged tiger. They did not have the time to search for their long-lost son. Moreover, the Tianyuan continent was so vast that unless they mobilized the power of their clan, finding their son in the sea of people with just the two of them would be like finding a needle in a haystack. Even if they used a secret technique, it would not be enough. This was because the seal placed on their son's body not only sealed his talent, but also the bloodline in his body. Suddenly, the middle-aged man's face changed, and he said, Yeyun, the clan has already found traces of the winged tiger. He's following a young man called Jianchen, and we've found where Jianchen lives. Let's go. The elders of the clan will be holding a meeting regarding this matter. Chanyang Zuyin dismissed her emotions and stood up. She walked out with the middle-aged man. Great-grandmother Yi, great-grandmother Yi. Just when the two of them arrived at the entrance, a young man and a young woman suddenly ran over from afar. They could hear the woman's joyful cries from afar. The two of them arrived beside Changyang Ziyun, and the woman immediately said, "Great-grandmother Yi, when brother and I went out to search for the winged tiger, we discovered a small clan in a small city with the same name as us, Changyang Prefecture." Changyang Ziyun forced a smile and gently said, "Shao, the Tianyuan continent is very large and there are many people. It's very normal for there to be clans and organizations with the same name as us in Changyang Prefecture. There's no need to worry about it. I know, but great-grandmother Yi, there's an old man in Changyang Prefecture who seems to know you. He even knows your name," the woman continued as she stared at Changyang Ziyun curiously with her bright eyes. Changyang Ziyun was slightly surprised. She immediately asked, "Shao, do you know his name?" He said his name is Chang Wuji, and he said that you know him, great-grandmother Yi, said the woman called Shao. "What? Chang Wuji?" Changyang Ziyun trembled violently as her expression drastically changed. Even her body began to tremble gently. "Chang Wuji? Isn't that the servant who follows Kong?" The middle-aged man beside Changyang Ziyun cried out as his expression drastically changed as well. The middle-aged man was Changyang Ziyun's husband, as well as one of the 7 great elders of Changyang Prefecture. His name was Changyang Ziyun Shao. Changyang Ziyun seemed to think of something and immediately became excited. Even her body began to tremble gently. She said with a trembling voice, Kong, it must be Kong, Kong, must be there. Shao, quick, take us there." Changyang Ziyun's voice was filled with urgency. "Yun Shao, Yun Fei, tell me where you found Chang Wuji." Changyang Ziyun Shao's voice was filled with some urgency. "He's at—" The young man immediately gave the rough location where he had found Chang Wuji. Changyang Ziyun Shao did not hesitate at all. With a casual wave of his hand, the space before him was immediately ripped open, forming a space gate. He took the siblings with him and left. He did not even bother with the gathering of the clan's elders. 6 people of various ages sat on 7 seats in a row in a majestic hall. One of them was the representative of the Changyang clan, Changyang Qinyan, who had gone to Mercenary City for the meeting. Below them, there were many people of different ages. At this moment, a gleam of light flashed through the eyes of the 6 people at the very front. They all looked in the direction Changyang Ziyun and her husband had ripped open space and left. "It's Changyang Ziyun, Shao. Why did he suddenly rip open space and leave? Did something happen?" An old man asked in surprise as a strange light appeared in his eyes. "Whatever. Let's not care about him. Since he's not coming, the 6 of us will discuss this meeting," Changyang Qinyan said indifferently. Changyang Qinyan nonchalantly replied. He was the strongest out of the 7 great elders of the clan, so he possessed a very great prestige. Chang Bo currently stood alone in a pavilion in the Changyang Prefecture of Lore City with mixed feelings. Reminiscence filled his eyes. Chang Bo stood behind him with over a dozen senior members of Changyang Prefecture. They had all come to understand the truth of the matter from Chang Bo. The senior members of Changyang Prefecture all understood one thing after the disturbance caused by the siblings. There was a great secret behind Chang Bo and the Changyang ancestor who had vanished for several hundred years. It was a secret that none of them knew about. Changyang Ziyun's identity as the old man had become the greatest question in the minds of the senior members. How could a mysterious person who could be referred to as the old man by Chang Bo be ordinary? At this moment, the senior members began to doubt the identities and backgrounds of the Changyang ancestor and Chang Bo for the first time. Uncle Chang stood in the pavilion in the garden and stared blankly at the fish swimming in the water. After a long time, he sighed softly and said without turning his head, "Don't ask any more. You will know the answer soon." At this moment, the space above Changyang Prefecture suddenly ripped open. A multicolored space gate quickly appeared, and soon figures shot out one after another. Chapter 804. In the blink of an eye, several dozen people gathered above Changyang Prefecture. Most of them were white-robed Radiant Saint Masters who stood on clouds condensed from Radiant Saint force. The other half were cultivators of various ages and dressed in clothes of various colors. The several dozen people quickly emerged from the space gate before gathering above Changyang Prefecture. They surrounded Changyang Prefecture. One of the old men casually waved his hand and cast down a barrier that enveloped the entire Changyang clan. The barrier was connected to the ground, so even the possibility of escaping through the secret tunnels had been cut off. The people from the Radiant Saint Master Union had finally arrived from the Holy Emperor's Kingdom's City of God. The sudden change attracted the attention of everyone in Changyang Prefecture. The guards who had just relaxed because of the siblings' departure immediately became nervous again. They all looked at the sky sternly. When they saw the barrier that enveloped the entire Changyang Prefecture, many of them immediately paled. They all knew that this was the ability of a saint ruler. Changbo also noticed the abnormality in the sky. He temporarily cast aside his sorrow, and with a thought, he controlled the energy of the world to drag his body into the air. He quickly glanced past everyone. When he saw over a dozen white-robed Class 7, Radiant Saint Masters with purple badges on their chests, his face immediately became extremely stern. "Seniors, are you from the Radiant Saint Master Union of the City of God?" Changbo clasped his hands at them and spoke extremely politely. The people before him were not people that the tiny Changyang Prefecture could afford to offend. "That's right. We're from the Radiant Saint Master Union. This is my master, the president of the union. Why don't you kneel down and greet the president when you see him?" A middle-aged man beside the president pointed at Uncle Chang and called out sternly. He was the second disciple of the president, Yun Tian. Junior Chang Wuji greets the esteemed president. Chang Bo clasped his hands in a hurry. He spoke extremely politely. The president of the union did indeed possess the strength to earn his respect. However, he did not kneel. In his heart, there was no one else who had the right to make him kneel aside from his master, who had vanished for several centuries, and the old man's people. Even the president of the union was no exception. Yun Tian immediately became furious when he saw how Changbo did not kneel. He had grievances with Genshin in the first place, and Genshin had taken away the saint artifact of the union, cutting off his hopes of becoming a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master. As a result, Yun Tian's hatred for Genshin had already reached his bones. He would not spare anyone who was related to Genshin of his life. "How dare you? You're just a mere servant. How dare you not kneel before the president of the union? Are you looking to die?" Yun Tian bellowed at Uncle Chang. "Yun Tian, do not be rude." The president raised his hand to stop Yun Tian. Although Genshin had taken away the saint artifact of the union, he knew that the saint artifact had run to Genshin of its own accord. It had not been taken away by Genshin. As a result, the president did not want his relationship with Genshin to worsen because of the matters of Changyang Prefecture. After all, there was still room for negotiation. The president clasped his hands at Changbo and said, "May I ask if Genshin is here?" "Esteemed president, the fourth young master has already left." "Even I don't know where he went," Changbo replied calmly. He did not panic at all. "Master, since Yang Yutian isn't here, why don't we just invite everyone from Changyang Prefecture to our union? Once Yang Yutian returns, he can directly come to our union to get his people," said Yun Tian, who stood beside the president. The president did not answer Yun Tian. He continued, "May I ask when Genshin will return?" Unless he had no other choice, the president did not want to offend Genshin's family so easily. If he angered Genshin, he might hide the saint artifact or hand it over to some large organization. If that happened, it would not be worth it. "I don't know when the fourth young master will return," said Changbo. "President, why don't we just do as Yun Tian says and take the people from Changyang Prefecture back?" As long as we control these people, I refuse to believe that Jianqin won't hand over the saint artifact obediently, said an elder from the Union behind him. President, I think this is feasible. Who knows when Yang Yutian will return? We can't just stay here and wait for him with so many of us. There will definitely be relatives of Yang Yutian among these people. As long as we control these people, Yang Yutian will definitely return very soon, another elder agreed. The president thought about it for a while before agreeing to their suggestion in the end. He said, "That's the only thing we can do right now. Everyone from Changyang Prefecture, please come to our union for a few days. Once Jianqin returns the saint artifact, I will release you." Changbo's face sank slightly when he heard that. He said, "Is your union going to imprison us for 100 years if the fourth young master doesn't return?" "That's right," the president replied emotionlessly. He could not wait for 100 years. Who knew what would happen to the union after 100 years? A sliver of anger appeared on Changbo's face. He coldly said, "Your union may be powerful, but you still don't have the right to control the people of Changyang Prefecture." The expressions of all the people from the Radiant Saint Master Union changed when they heard that. Uncle Chang's words basically showed no respect for the Radiant Saint Master Union at all. This made the people from the Radiant Saint Master Union feel slightly angered. "You're looking to die." A middle-aged man in tight clothes roared angrily. He waved his hand, and an invisible force of the world surged toward Uncle Chang. The space around Uncle Chang froze in an instant, confining his body to the spot and making him unable to move at all. The invisible world force struck Changbo mercilessly, causing Changbo to grunt. His face immediately paled as he constantly vomited blood. At the same time, the space around Changbo returned to normal. Changbo was no longer able to float, so he directly fell from the sky. Below, the Earth Saint Master Senior figures of Changyang Prefecture all cried out. Immediately, a few of them leapt up to catch Changbo's falling body. At this moment, these grand elders all had worried looks on their faces. They knew that the Changyang Prefecture was facing a huge problem this time, and it was a huge problem. They had directly offended the Radiant Saint Master Union. This was an important figure in the Holy Emperor's empire. They were much more powerful than the Qin Empire, one of the 8 great empires on the continent. The middle-aged man coldly glanced at Changbo and said, "A mere clan dares to act so recklessly before the Radiant Saint Master Union? You're asking for death. I'll spare your life this time, but if there's a next time, I'll directly kill you on the spot. I won't stay behind." The difference between a Heaven Saint Master and a Saint Ruler was just too great. Everyone below Saint Ruler was an ant. Even though Changbo had almost reached the peak of Heaven Saint Master, he was still extremely weak before a Saint Ruler. No one stopped the middle-aged man's actions, including the president and grand elder of the Union. Although they did not want their relationship with Jianqin to become too strained, they still had their bottom line. Changbo's words had clearly crossed that bottom line. The president looked at the white-haired old man and said, "I'll have to trouble Elder Jia to take all the people of Changyang Prefecture back to the Union." The old man nodded slightly before directly ripping open space. He created a space gate that led to the Union. He was about to take all the people of Changyang Prefecture back to the Union. Boom! Suddenly, a muffled sound rang out. The huge barrier around Changyang Prefecture shattered loudly, for figures had appeared outside at some unknown time. They were 2 men and 2 women. They were Changyang Ziyun and her husband, as well as the 2 siblings who had hurried over from the protector clan of Changyang Prefecture. The gazes of the people from the Union immediately gathered on Changyang Ziyun's group of 4. A middle-aged man immediately asked, "Who are you? State your names." Changyang Ziyun and Changyang Ziyun Shao glanced past the people from the Radiant Saint Master Union and lost interest. Changyang Ziyun Shao gently murmured, "Why are the people from the Radiant Saint Master Union here as well?" Yunfei Yunxiao, is this the place you were talking about? Great-grandfather Yunxiao, great-grandmother Yi. That's right, it's here, Changyang Zuyun said. He glanced through the crowd below and finally found the heavily injured Chang Wuji on the ground. He immediately pointed at him and said, "It's him. Great-grandfather Yunxiao, great-grandmother Yi. He's the person who calls himself Chang Wuji." Changyang Zuyun Xiao and Changyang Zuyun's eyes narrowed. They both stared at Chang Wuji, and with a slight sway of their bodies, they suddenly appeared beside Chang Wuji. The light in their eyes flickered as they studied Chang Wuji in excitement. The current Chang Wuji was already an old man in his 70s, and his appearance had changed so much that the couple couldn't recognize him for a moment. "Why, you're Chang Wuji," Changyang Zuyun said with uncertainty. Changyang Zuyun asked uncertainly. Her voice was filled with hope. She was extremely nervous right now. She was extremely worried about whether Chang Wuji was the person she was looking for. The senior members of Changyang Prefecture around Chang Wuji all looked at each other before glancing at the middle-aged couple from time to time. They all tried to guess their identities, but none of them dared to say anything. They were definitely Saint Rulers if they could break through the barrier cast down by Saint Rulers. Chapter 805. Chang Wuji, it really is you. Without a doubt, Chang Wuji was proving his identity to Changyang Zuyun and Changyang Zuyun Xiao by referring to him as Old Man. With that, Changyang Zuyun no longer doubted Chang Wuji's identity. She immediately cried out, and her voice was filled with joy. In Changyang Zuyun's opinion, finding Chang Wuji was equivalent to finding her long-lost son. The person she truly cared about was not Chang Wuji, but her son. "Chang Wuji, where's Kong? Where's Kong? You left Changyang Prefecture with Kong back then, so you must be with him, right? Tell me where Kong is." Changyang Zuyun's trembling voice was filled with urgency. At this moment, her heart that had grieved for several hundred years had finally become emotional. She had never been so excited and happy ever since her son had been exiled from Changyang Prefecture several hundred years ago. "Master, master, master." Chang Wuji was extremely excited when he saw the old man and his grandfather. He stuttered a few words weakly before coughing violently due to his heavy injuries. He spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, and some of it had even splattered onto Changyang Zuyun and Changyang Zuyun Xiao's clothes. Changyang Zuyun Xiao immediately took out a brown pill from his space ring and fed it to Chang Bo. The pill was a secret healing pill from Changyang Prefecture, refined from countless precious heavenly resources. It was even more precious than high-level radiant spirit pills. After ingesting the pill, Chang Bo's worsening injuries finally stabilized. He had taken a turn for the better. Changyang Zuyun Xiao's face became extremely sunken as he looked at the heavily injured Chang Wuji. Killing intent filled his eyes as he growled, "Chang Wuji, who injured you?" Chang Bo looked at the people from the Radiant Saint Master Union hovering in the air and weakly replied, "It's the people from the Radiant Saint Master Union. They want to take all the people of Changyang Prefecture to the City of God." Preposterous! Changyang Zuyun Xiao was infuriated. Immediately, a tremendous presence radiated from him, enveloping the entire region. The presence was filled with extremely heavy, killing intent. Changyang Zuyun Xiao had never been so furious in the past several hundred years. Although the Radiant Saint Master Union was a peak organization on the continent and was no weaker than an ancient clan, they were as insignificant as an ant before the protector clan of the Changyang Prefecture. They were nothing in the eyes of the Changyang Prefecture. Yet now the clan he had founded as the son of one of the 7 great elders of Changyang Prefecture was actually being bullied by the people of the Radiant Saint Master Union. It was impossible for Changyang Zuyun Xiao to not become furious. At the same time, he thought about just how much his son had suffered in the past few years. As a father, Changyang Zuyun Xiao's heart ached. With a single leap, Changyang Zuyun Xiao appeared in the sky in a single moment. He coldly stared at the people from the Radiant Saint Master Union and sternly called out, "Who dares to attack people in the Changyang Prefecture? Step forward, or all of you will be punished." The people from the Radiant Saint Master Union looked at each other. They all became extremely stern. They could vaguely guess that Changyang Zuyin Shao was a holy emperor. The fact that the Changyang Prefecture actually possessed the support of a holy emperor had completely exceeded the expectations of the Radiant Saint Master Union. "Sir, may I ask who you are?" An old voice rang out. The old man had spoken. His voice was hoarse and powerless, as if he was an old man who was about to die. The old man was the same old man Genshin had seen wiping the tables and chairs with a towel in the Tower of Radiance. He was also a holy emperor. "Changyang Zuyin Shao." Changyang Zuyin Shao replied emotionlessly. The expressions of the people who had some understanding of the protector clans changed drastically when they heard the name. They stared at Changyang Zuyin Shao in shock as deep fear filled their eyes. The president of the union immediately clasped his hands at Changyang Zuyin Shao. He sternly asked, "Are you from one of the protector clans, the Central, Yuan, and Qing branches of the Changyang Prefecture?" At this moment, the hearts of all the people from the union sank. They had originally believed that the Changyang Prefecture of Lore City was only a small clan that shared the same name as the Protector clan, but they had never thought that not only did the two not share the same name, but they even seemed to have some special relationship with the upper echelon of the Changyang Prefecture. The president's words immediately caused all the senior members of the Changyang Prefecture to tremble violently. A strange light flickered through all of their eyes. Although they did not know about the Changyang ancestor of the Protector clan, they could see the fear on the faces of the people from the Radiant Saint Master Union. They could already guess that the Protector clan was definitely a large clan that was even more powerful than the Radiant Saint Master Union. This immediately cheered up their despairing hearts. All of them seemed to see the flames of hope. Changyang Zuyin Shao coldly stared at the president of the union and slowly said, "You're quite knowledgeable. You even know about the Zhu, Yuan, and Qing branches of the Changyang Prefecture." Afterward, Changyang Zuyin Shao slowly glanced past everyone and said, "Who injured the people of the Changyang Prefecture? If you don't say anything, I can only add all of you to the list of people to be punished." The expressions of the people from the Radiant Saint Master Union became ugly. They did not dare to offend one of the 10 Protector clans at all. They had even completely erased their pride, not daring to show it at all. The middle-aged man who had injured Chang Bo earlier had an extremely ugly expression. He hovered there in a daze, not daring to say anything. He was filled with regret. "It's him. He's the one who injured Chang Bo." At this moment, a gentle voice rang out from below. Yu Fengyan stood in the crowd and pointed at the middle-aged man who had injured Chang Bo. Her face was filled with anger. "Yes, he's the one who injured Chang Bo. We have to avenge Chang Bo." All the senior members of the Changyang Prefecture pointed at the middle-aged man after Yu Fengyan spoke. They were all extremely furious. They had already guessed that the middle-aged couple who had suddenly arrived definitely had a great relationship with the Changyang Prefecture. Changyang Zuyin Shao glared at the middle-aged man and immediately bellowed out, "A mere saint ruler dares to injure the people of the Changyang Prefecture? You're looking to die." As he said that, Changyang Zuyin Shao silently appeared before the middle-aged man. He extended his hand and directly reached for the man's head. At the same time, the space around the middle-aged man froze. He was immobilized. At this moment, the old man appeared before the middle-aged man out of nowhere. He directly struck out with his hand, colliding with Changyang Zuyin's hand. Bang! With a heavy sound. Even though the two of them had great control over their energy, the Holy Emperor's strike still caused the space there to violently tremble. Changyang Zuyinxiao's eyes turned slightly cold. He coldly said, "You dare to stop me? Sir, the people of our union may have injured a member of your clan first, but he doesn't deserve to die. I hope you can show mercy and spare his life." The old man clasped his hands and said, Piss off! Killing intent surged in Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's heart. With a cold snort, he struck out at the old man again. This time, it was clearly much more powerful. Wherever it passed, the surrounding space would crack. The Saint King from the Radiant Saint Master Union became stern. With a deep bellow, he swung his skinny hand toward Changyang Zhu Yunxiao with the tremendous force of the world. He could not allow a saint ruler from the Union to die because of such a small mistake. Even the Radiant Saint Master Union could not afford to lose a saint ruler because they did not have a lot of people like that. Every single one of them was extremely important, a peak force of the Union. Their palms collided in midair with boundless world energy. Without a sound, the surrounding space suddenly trembled. Then, the space within a radius of several dozen meters shattered like a mirror. The Holy Emperor paled slightly after the strike. He immediately retreated. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao hovered in the air steadily. He did not take a single step back. He took a step forward and arrived before the saint ruler who had injured Chang Wuji. He coldly said, "I will not forgive you for injuring the people of the Changyang Prefecture." Changyang Zhu Yunxiao directly extended his hand and struck the saint ruler's head. The saint ruler who had injured Chang Wuji was immobilized, unable to move at all. He had even lost the ability to dodge Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's palm strike. The palm strike had directly shattered his head and shattered his soul. Blood gushed out from his orifices as his soul was wiped out. After killing a saint ruler, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao coldly glanced at the Saint King who had been knocked back by a single palm strike. He said, "If you dare to act recklessly again, I'll kill you as well. You're not my opponent with your strength at the second heavenly layer." The Holy Emperor was furious, but he did not dare to say anything. A while later, he gently sighed in the end. His face was ashen. He could not afford to offend one of the 10 protector clans of the Changyang Prefecture. If he crossed the line, even the Radiant Saint Master Union would be affected and suffer a devastating blow from the Changyang Prefecture. The Radiant Saint Master Union could only swallow the loss today. Changyang Zuyun ignored the battle in the sky. Instead, she crouched beside Chang Wuji and said urgently, "Chang Wuji, tell me where Conger is right now. How is he right now?" Chang Wuji's wounds had healed by a lot after being healed by the Saint Realm Medicine. He stood up with some difficulty and bitterly said, "Old man, Master has already left several hundred years ago in search of a way to get out of the seal. There's still no news from him even now." "What? Kong? Changyang Zuyun immediately became dejected. She, who had been filled with hope, fell into despair when she heard what Changbo had said. She originally thought that as long as she found Chang Wuji, she would definitely be able to find her long-lost son, Changyang Zuyunkong. She had never thought that the outcome would be like this.